In this video, you'll build Amazon Web 3.0 dApp with Next.js. You'll be using Hardhat to create the smart contract and deploy it using Moralis' speedy nodes. You'll use Open Zeppelin to ensure that the custom coins are in line with the ERC20 standard. You'll use Moralis to actually interact with the smart contract because Moralis makes it incredibly easy to interact with smart contracts. We'll be using Moralis' built-in NoSQL database to manage our users that we authenticate and create on this app. And at the end, we're going to be deploying this app to the internet using Netlify, because Netlify actually gives you one of the smoothest and best experiences for deploying your app, and it's one of the most popular. With that said, I hope you're excited for this build. Smash the like button so this video goes out everywhere. Now I'm going to send it over to Lance, who's going to be your instructor for this build so he can demo the app and actually get you to start building it. With that said, let's go. Right before we get started and start coding, I just want to let you know that we're doing a collab with BuildSpace, which is one of the best Web3 education platforms in the world. And you guys are going to be getting an NFT that proves you completed this project, and it's going to be in collab with BuildSpace and Clever Programmer, and it's going to look sick. BuildSpace also has an incredible community of Web3 developers who you can learn together with in their Discord, and they're very active. Last but not least, BuildSpace is also helping new Web3 developers like yourself get matched up with top tier companies like Adidas or Alchemy for premium high contracts. And I'm talking about $10,000 to $20,000 a month contracts, and their vision is amazing. I even met their CEO, Arza, and he's just an incredible, amazing human being. So I'm really excited about this collab. And the best part for you guys, it's completely free. All you have to do is just go down below, click the link in the description. It's going to take you to a landing page, pop in your name and email, and then it's going to ask you to connect your wallet. And once you connect your wallet, you're good to go. And then when you do this build and you complete it, that wallet will be able to verify you did it. You'll get your own NFT and you'll get the entire community and everything that goes with it. Okay. So again, it's completely free. Go ahead, sign up for that right now. And with that said, let's just jump right into the video.
Take a look at this project. This is a reimagined Amazon if it was on the Web3 space. So instead of selling normal products, what we're selling is digital assets. So let's take a look around. This looks amazing. Imagine looking at all of these guys and owning any of these. And if you notice something here, it says 2AC. What that says is that in this Amazon, we have our own currency or unique tokens, which is all part of this build. So this is the demo here. You're gonna see this nice connect wallet button. The modal pops up with all the options. Click Metamask, and you can see that we're authenticating with Moralis. So let's click sign, and bam, there we are. And this actually shows how much ETH I have. And guess how much code that took? Literally one line of code. That's the login and authentication. Let's see if we can actually buy stuff. If I click this beautiful modal comes out, and we can tell our computer how much Amazon coins we want. Let's hit buy. Let's go ahead and hit confirm. And there we go. Look at that. We got 20 Amazon coins, as you can see here, and I'll take a look at that in a second. But look, there's this little thing called transaction receipt that I set up. Here's proof that we're actually sending ETH to the contract through Etherscan, and you can track it right here. There it is. Thank you. We can X this out. And now I have 20 Amazon coins to pay with. So let's say I want a Nokia. I'm going to click the Metamask notification again so that I can purchase it. Let's hit confirm on that boy, and let's see. Confirm. And look at that recent transaction, right? Which shows me all the recent transactions that I as a user have. It's going to be different for everybody else. Transactions confirmed, and now we purchase it. How do I know I purchased it? There's this little transaction history here. If I click on it, look at that. I bought the Nokia, and then we have the Etherscan link for that as well to prove this is the receipt of us buying it. And look at that. This is actually Amazon. This is one of my favorite projects so far. So if you are excited about this, let's go ahead and get to the build. What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Lance here again, and yes, we have the face cam. So without further ado, let's get started on the Amazon clone. So all you have to do is hop over to your terminal and let's create that project folder. So to create that project folder, all you have to write is MK and then the project folder name. So I'm gonna call this one Amazon Clone Blockchain. Okay. Once you make that folder, we have to CD into it. And the idea here is we're gonna be making this app using Next.js. So in order to make our starter Next.js project, you just have to write npx create next app at latest. And then the important part here is the space dot. If you add the space dot, it'll take all the starter Next.js files and put it in this folder. Otherwise, it'll make a new folder and put the stuff in that. So you don't want a folder within a folder. You get the idea. I'm gonna hit enter. Awesome. We have the Next.js folder, and you can see it, that folder right here. So let me go into that folder real quick. Desktop, projects, builds, Amazon clone, blockchain. Okay, as you can see, we have all the starter Next.js files, the pages, the styles, the node modules. Awesome. And since we're here, I'm just gonna make another folder called smart contract. If you've watched our previous videos, you know that we're gonna be setting up hard hat in here, and this is where we're gonna write some Solidity. So if you're interested in learning how to make your first Solidity smart contract, stay tuned later in the video when I show you guys how to do just that. Okay, since we're here, open up your browser and let's get Tailwind installed. So luckily there is this nice documentation on how to get Tailwind with Next.js. This is all you have to do. And since we already have the project open, we can open the terminal in here. Okay, once that's done, all you have to do is follow what I'm doing, or if you get lost, follow this documentation. So to install Tailwind, you want to type in npm or yarn if you're using yarn. I'll be using yarn, so I'm going to say yarn add -d Tailwind CSS, post CSS, and auto prefixer. And notice how there's three things. We're installing three different packages, right? Tailwind CSS, post CSS, and auto prefixer. Okay, once that's done, we need to initialize Tailwind by writing npx Tailwind CSS init-p. So I just copied that from the documentation and pasted it in my terminal. Notice how it says it created a Tailwind CSS config file and a post css.conf, right? What we care about is the tailwind.config, right? And you just want to add everything in this content. So see how it's highlighted? So what I'm going to do is just grab everything inside that array. Make sure you don't miss anything. Don't put anything extra, right? You paste it and it should look exactly like the documentation. Cool. That looks like it's good to go. And the last thing we're going to need is the Tailwind directives in our global.css. Okay, so to add that, go to your global.css and we can actually erase all of these default boilerplate code and add in those directives. All right, cool. Go ahead and hit save. And since we're here as well, we can also add the global CSS that I have in mind, which is just importing this Google font, Ubuntu, and using it and making this the background color. That's it. That's all I'm doing here. I'm gonna press save and we should be good to go. And once that's done, your Tailwind is all set up. We can run our project by writing in yarn dev. Okay, and it usually starts it in localhost 3000, compiled successfully, which means it'll load, and there it is. If you see a screen like this, is the starter Next.js app. Let's go ahead and set up a couple other things. All right, a big proponent of this app is actually using Moralis. So to get started with Moralis, hop over to this link with me and set up a couple things. If you guys ever heard of Firebase at all, you can think of it as the Firebase of crypto. What do I mean? It's essentially the leading web development platforms that gives us developers tools to make dApps really fast and really easily. And a lot of the setup just requires one line. So to get started with Moralis, so I can show you guys cool things that you can do, hop over to this link right here. It's t.moralis.io/clever, and it'll lead you to this beautiful page right here. Go ahead and sign up so we can create our server. I already have an account with them, so let's log in. Okay, once you make an account, you should see a screen like this. I'm gonna go ahead and make my window a little bigger. There we go. So if you see something like this, is the Moralis servers page. What we need to do is we need to create a server. Because if we were going to do this without Moralis, we have to create our own RPC node, and we have to set up all the infrastructure around it, which can lead to a bunch of headaches, a bunch of reinventing the wheel. With Moralis, it's going to make this process a lot simpler because there's a lot of pre-made functions and they query a lot of the information that you have for you, and we're going to make good use of that in our database. So before I get too excited and talk about that, let's just make a server. Yep, so here you're going to decide what kind of server you need. We're going to be working on the testnet. For the instance, I'm going to call it Amazon clone blockchain. For the region, I'm going to click what makes sense for me, which is New York. And you're going to notice something cool here. There's a bunch of different chains that Moralis can communicate with, right? One cool thing about Moralis is that it's actually cross-chain. I know that I'm going to be working on the Rinkeby testnet, so I'll click that and add the instance. Let's go. So you can see our server is now up. If I click view details, right? The server details is going to be relevant because we're going to need the server URL, the app ID, and the master key. Okay. Other than that, there's a couple cool things that come with Moralis. You're allowed to use cloud functions. You can have this dashboard, which I'll be showing you guys later on. So stay tuned. All right. You can see our database already started with all the users that are connected. Every time I log in, this is going to populate and it's going to store their wallet address and all their transactions, which is super cool because we can then query that in our app and use it. Okay. And on top of that, Moralis comes with a bunch of different plugins that we might be using later on in our future builds. There's a Pinata IPFS plugin that makes it easier to interact with Pinata. Another one that's really interesting is that there's a 1-inch Moralis plugin that helps integrate DeFi or DEX aggregators of 1-inch to any project, which is super cool. The Fiat, which enables a quick real dollars to crypto swap through Moralis. So that's insane. Be on the lookout for future videos where we use that. Now that we have our server, that's it for Moralis. The next thing that we're going to set up is we're actually going to be able to deploy our app to Netlify and make it live so that you guys can share it with your friends, family, and put it on your portfolio. So to do that, we'll be using Netlify. And if you haven't already, let's go make an account together. Okay, making this bigger again. I'm gonna go ahead and sign up for Netlify. Once you guys make an account with Netlify, it's actually really easy to get your project up and live. All you have to do is click add a new site and import an existing project. From there, all you have to do is just connect your GitHub. Off camera, I already made a GitHub project containing the starter files. Go ahead and make your repo so that you can do the same thing I'm doing. So here we go. We have the Amazon clone blockchain repo that I have, and it's just the initial starter files, nothing too crazy, up on a GitHub repository. So going back to here, connect your GitHub. It's authorized. Look for your repo. There we go. We got the Amazon clone blockchain, and then I put in, make sure this says yarn run build, and let's deploy our site. Cool. And as you can see, our site is going to be deployed, and then we can click this link that pops up, and we should see something similar to what our project currently looks like, which is just a starter Next.js app. But the cool thing is every time you push to your GitHub, the site gets redeployed and it has the latest updates. So we'll check back on this link and I'll show you guys how to rename it. Okay, making this smaller again. And with that said, a lot of the setup is done. Let's get to coding. Okay, now that we set up Netlify and Moralis, we need to install a couple different dependencies for our app. So coming to the terminal, I'm gonna install using yarn add Moralis, and we also want React-Moralis. Throughout this app, we're gonna be using a couple different dependencies. I'm gonna install most of the ones I think I need. Okay, and if you look at your package.json, you can see all the dependencies we added: Moralis and React-Moralis. A couple of things off the top of my head that we'll need is if you do a yarn add, let's get React icons, React-spinners, and React-simple hook modal. I know that's a long one, right? So we got React icons, React spinners, React simple hook modal. The next batch that we're going to install is yarn add. We'll need @web. We'll need @wallet connect /web3-provider space to get the second dependency, which is @web3auth / okay, and since we're here, we could also do ethers. Okay, I think I spelled all of it. I'm gonna hit enter. Come on, you can do it. Okay, it's finally done. All these packages. So it looks like it's finally done. As you can see, we have Web3 auth and the wallet connect and ethers. Only a couple more, guys. I'm gonna be adding the Magic Sdk. We'll also be using moments in here since we're gonna be working with some time. And important for this next section would be the Web3 UI. Once you have all three of those installed, that's gonna be all the packages we need for this project for now. All right, as you can see, these are all the packages that we need to install. We might add some more later, but I think this is a good start. So all I want you guys to do next is head over to your pages folder and click index.js. This is the reason why we see this page is because of this index file. What I want to do is make this my own, so I'll delete everything in here. So let's highlight line 66 and go all the way up line 8. I also want to delete all three of these things. And if you guys aren't familiar with Tailwind, it's essentially a CSS framework that makes it a lot easier and quicker to write out our styles. So as you can see, the class names have a styles.container. All right, we can inherit these properties by making a styles object in each component and defining each key with the styles that we want. So if I say container here, this div is gonna keep the styling of whatever container is. And I can tell you, it's pretty simple. There's a CSS cheat sheet out here to tell you a translation of what everything means. For example, h-full is gonna mean like the full height and width of the page essentially, okay? Then we can give it a flex property and you can set the background color like so. Cool, and now this should inherit all that styling. If I hit save, oh, that's right, we also have to run our project. We're gonna do yarn dev, okay, and then we can reload it. Okay, there we go. And if you see a blank page, don't be worried. That's exactly what our index looks like. What I wanna do here is fill this index page with the components that we want. So what I like to do is set them up so I know what's next. I do a sidebar right here, and we also want the main component, which is gonna hold everything. If you guys saw the demo, we're gonna be making a redesigned Amazon for the Web 3.0 space with a bunch of cool digital assets that you could buy. So this sidebar is going to be that nice sidebar that you guys saw with our login functionality and all the tabs, all the sidebar items. Okay, and since these components don't exist yet, I'm going to go ahead and comment them out, and I'll comment them back in as needed. So as you can see, I already got started while I was waiting for those packages. I made a components folder and I made a sidebar.js. So I'm going to go ahead and click into it. You're going to notice it's empty. There's a cool code snippets that you could do, like RAFCE with the extension. I'm going to click that and it sets up the component. Hitting save, we can go back to the index and now we can actually import that component. So let me show you a fast way to do it. You can uncomment out the sidebar, start to type it out, and you should see this nice little auto import. Click on it and there you go. That's all you have to write to import a component. Don't forget to close it, and if I hit save now, there she is. Our sidebar is loaded onto our index.js. Sounds good? So in this next section, let's code up the sidebar. All right, so now that we have the sidebar set up, I want to take this moment to talk about how to do certain things for your dApp. For example, if I want a login button, or in other words, a connect wallet button, we can actually do that using Moralis. So to get started, remember how I said you need to view details and get all of this information? We're going to use it today. So one of the first things I'll have you do is let's create a new file at the root, and this will be our .env file. This will hold all our environment variables in here. All right, so once you make your .env file, we're going to create a couple variables. The first one is going to be next Moralis server. And all I have to do now is to set equals that URL. Next, I'm going to grab the app ID and set up this variable, which is next public Moralis app ID, paste, boom. Cool. So we have the environment variables. Head over to your pages folder and then your underscore app. Okay. In this underscore app, this contains our actual Next.js application. And what I want you to do is let's get the Moralis provider from React-Moralis. Cool. We essentially just want to wrap our whole Next.js app with that provider. So what I'm going to do is format it like so. And at the top here, I'm going to put in the Moralis provider and let's insert our app in between the two. Cool. The next thing we want is in the opening tag of the Moralis provider, let's set up the server URL, which you guessed it will be the environment variable process.env.next public Moralis underscore server. Then it's the app ID, setting that equal to the app ID. Okay. Hit save, ID, server. Cool, it has the same name. And usually you just want to reset your terminal. Okay, it says loaded env. We're good to go. Okay, let me just refresh this, see if we get any errors. Okay, it's compiling. Okay, it's done compiling. And look, we got the sidebar still. No errors, that's a good sign. Next thing you want to do is hop over to the sidebar. And at the top here, let's import the connect button from Web3 UI. Cool. And then inside this div, let's actually get that component and say connect button. Let's hit save. Hey, look at that. We have a connect wallet button and I didn't have to do any styling. The best part is it has already some functionality to it. If I click connect wallet, this little modal will pop up with all the different wallets you can sign up with. I'm using Metamask, so I'm gonna click Metamask and then it'll ask me to sign off to Moralis that they can use and query my information. Okay, so there's the message. This is signing for authentication, sign, and it's connected. Cool. So that's how we can set up a login button right off the bat with Moralis. Next thing we have to do is, on our end, we have to set up what it would look like when the user logs in and use some Moralis hooks to check if that user is authenticated. Sounds good? So let's build out the rest of the sidebar and I'll include more functionality for login as I go. Cool. Additionally, another cool thing about what we just did is if you look at the dashboard for your app, go under user, you're gonna notice that there's two users now because every time you connect your wallet to your dApp, Moralis will take note of it and add it to the database. What we need to set up is getting the ETH address, and I'll show you guys how to update that with a username as well later on. So keep that in mind. Let's move on. Okay, cool. So now that you have an idea about the connect button, what I'll do next is set up all the different divs for the sidebar, right? So temporarily removing this connect button, but for the most outer div, I want to give that a class name. If you're unfamiliar with Tailwind, is a CSS framework that makes building and styling your divs a lot faster. It's kind of similar to how Bootstrap works if you are familiar with that. So for the class name, we're going to give this styles.container, and there we go. Styles.container, and there. The next div we're going to make is the div with the class name of profile, styles.profile, okay? And in this, we're going to have something called isAuthenticated, which we'll get from Moralis. If it exists, we want to load a certain HTML element. So if it is authenticated, we're going to load styles.profile pick container. And we need a closing div for this, so it's going to be this one. In this, we're going to use the images from Next.js, so I'm going to need to import that. All right, so the one that says next image. So it's self-closing. And all the next thing we're gonna do is pass in some properties. We're gonna add a source, but I'm gonna do that a little bit later. For now, I'm just gonna add an alt of profile, which I actually don't need to do that. I actually can do this, alt of profile. Class name will be styles profile pic, and the height will be 100. Sorry, and this should be curly brackets. The width should be 100 as well. Cool, and we don't have is authenticated, that doesn't exist. So let's say is authenticated for now, so we don't get any errors. Hard code it to be false. Cool, and of course we see this error because I didn't make my styles object just yet. And actually I want to put this in a fragment, so let's leave that up there, okay? And after that closing div, we'll have if there's no username, because by default, when you log in, you won't have a username, but you'll have the option to fill in that input field, which will then update that user database. Okay, the next thing is we want to set up is we want to check if there's a username. So if there's no username, I want to have the input field out there. So I'll make another fragment and we can just say div. This one's going to have a class name of styles.username. And like I said, I want the input field to show up so that we can add a username to that account. And input is actually a self-closing tag. Cool. Let's have type equals text, placeholder is equal to username. The class name of this input will be username input, and the value is gonna be nickname, but we don't have that set up yet. So I'm gonna do one of these. Yeah, it's gonna go under the column nickname, but we don't have that, so I'm gonna comment it out. I'm gonna do an on change. I want to set the nickname. All right, nick the target value. Cool. And again, this doesn't exist either. Set nickname. It's a state that I'll have to set up later. But as you can see, this gives me an idea of how I want my project to look. Okay. And at the end of that div, we want a button. And inside that button, it's going to have the class name of styles.set of handle set username. Okay. And we actually don't have that function either, but it gives me an idea of what to expect. Okay, and we haven't finished closing off our divs, which is why we see that. And for the button, we want it to say set. Okay, here we'll have the closing fragment of this second one. So we'll have this closing fragment right here. And remember, what we're doing here is if there's no username, show me the input. But if there is, show me the username. After that closing one, all we have to do is set up the rest of the conditional rendering, which is just going to be something like this, which should just be div, closing div. And this inner one, we'll give it a class name of styles.welcome. And here we can say welcome, the username that we put. For now, I'll just put Lance, but we're going to change this to make it dynamic. Okay, cool. Once that's done, I'm going to make that closing fragment here. Cool. And I think what I need to do is clean this up a bit. So I'm going to take a moment and do that and just show you the changes. Okay, cool. I hit save and it says styles is not defined. That's because I haven't defined any of my styles yet, which is okay. So I think for fun, let's just get that out of the way right now. I'm gonna go at the top here and say const styles equals object. And as I showed previously, if you want to style the container, you'd have to write the key and the value of it would be the CSS. So again, this will be hfull. The width I'm actually gonna set to 300 pixels for the sidebar. Give it a flex property, and I wanna make sure it's columns, background color of this, and we'll say static. Cool. So you get the idea. I'm gonna add the rest of the styling. Feel free to pause the video to take a look, okay? Once that's done, you should see something like this represents the little container that will put the connect button in. Cool, like I was saying, this is what you should see. If we also have that username property down below. If we're authenticated, we might not have a username. So temporarily, let's make a hard-coded one. And let's say our username is equal to Lance, right? And while we're here, we can actually change this hard-coded Lance to whatever the username variable is. Cool. So we want to check if our conditional rendering works is if this changes to true, this styling, and then it checks if there's a username, and if there is, it'll say welcome Lance. If not, it'll have an input field saying to set your username. Okay, remember how I said we're gonna go back to images? I want to be using DiceBear for the images, which is just going to generate a random avatar based on what we pass in as the username. I'm going to be using a library called DiceBear, which will generate a random photo based on your username, and I already have it pre-copied, which is just this. All right, it's going to take in whatever username.svg that gets generated. The next thing we have to do is set up our next.config.js, which I pasted it in, and this is what we need. We need an images key with an object and a domains key with an array. So take a moment, pause the video, grab all of these because we're going to be using them. Sounds good? Cool. So if I hit save, we should be allowed to use images from DiceBear. I'm gonna go back into here, moment of truth. Let's check if our conditional rendering works. I hit save, let's go, welcome Lance. All right, we can see that if I am authenticated, I'm gonna load the image. If I have a username, it's gonna say welcome Lance, okay? And if I were to change my username, let's say my username is Kazi, it's save, that's Kazi's random generated SVG based on his name, cool. So what if I didn't have a username? We might see an error here. If it's save, yeah, it's because username input is not defined. Oh, that's actually because this has to be styles.username input. Hit save. There we go. That's more like it. And if you're wondering about this styling, that's because we don't have any CSS for it. For those classes, the CSS would look something like this. Transparent border, justify content center, item center, and the text is white. And the username will have these properties as well. Okay, there you go. It looks a little bit nicer. If you're wondering why it looks like that, it's because we need to set nickname CSS still too. If you see the button right here, we need this one. Okay, so I'm just gonna add that in real quick. There we go, that's a lot better. Cool. And these don't work just yet because we need to set up those functions to set the nickname. So for now, I can show you what it would look like if I were to insert a username, save, welcome Lance. Cool. Okay, coming down below here, on line 60 for me, I want to add another div. In this div, I'm gonna call it class name styles.connect button. All right, so when you're writing this, make sure it's still inside the styles.profile. The button should still be in here. And remember that connect button we set up last time? You wanna insert that in here. There we go. It's looking amazing. Cool. From there, let's set up the rest of the menu items. So to set that up, we just need to make another div here. I'm gonna give it a class name of menu. Cool, so after you make that div, I don't know if you knew, but when you're working with a Next.js app, you can actually do some routing to different pages within here instead of getting a React router. So what we can do is import link from next/link, and from there, come down below and let's add that link here with the href of, let's see, /. The reason why I want to give this an href with / is because I'm going to put the Amazon logo in here. And when you click the Amazon logo, you could actually go back to the home page. So I want to do class name, and we're going to use this div a lot, styles.menu item. And in here, it's going to take another image component from Next.js, should be self-closing. Source is going to equal logo, which we don't have yet, but I'll show you guys what I'm going to do for that. The height's going to be 30, and the width is going to also equal 30. And the class name, it's going to be styles.amazon logo. Cool. You don't have to hit save because it's not going to work because logo doesn't exist. So let's make logo exist right now. So what I did is I actually gathered a couple of assets, put it in a folder, and now I'm ready to paste it. Feel free to get your own assets for whatever you want to use for your app. And I don't want it to go to pages actually. I want this assets folder to go to the root. So I'm going to click outside, paste, that's more like it. Cool. So now I have an assets folder, and if you look into it, we have the Amazon logo, which any of you guys could pull, and I have some PNGs of some digital assets I'd like to sell. This could be completely customizable. You can make this store whatever you want. So this is what I have set up. So make sure you make an assets folder and put all your PNG files inside there. Cool. Once that's done, I'm gonna go ahead and get the logos, right? We need an Amazon logo, an Amazon logo full. So now this logo exists, okay? And you can see it right there. We didn't make the menu item or the Amazon logo styling yet, so it looks really plain. But bear with me, it's on the way. So in between 75 and 76 for me, I'm gonna write my Amazon, and I want a little line break here. So I'm gonna say break, board, and closing. Okay, my Amazon board, nice. Closing link, awesome. Let's make the next menu item, which will look something similar like div, class name, styles, menu. And remember how we downloaded React icons earlier? Let's actually use one of them. This one I'll use is called a fbox. And underneath that, I'll put collections. And if you use fbox, you have to import it. So to use fbox, I'm just gonna put import fbox from there, hit save. There it is, little package symbol that means collections. Same kind of process for the rest of the menu items. So let's work on that. I'm gonna make a div, class name, styles. So you get the idea now. All right, so for this one, it's actually called BS fill bookmark fill, okay? And it's gonna have the text of saved. I'm gonna hit save. Of course, it doesn't exist, so it's gonna give us an error. Let's make it exist by importing it. Import React icon /BS. And that's what it should look like. Okay, and just to quickly speed this up, I want to make another div. Except this time, it's not going to be bookmark. It's actually just going to be person, fill, and put back that closing. Cool. Let's go ahead and import it now. So go to the top, and import it. Cool, and we're almost done. We actually have one more link here to our second page, which is gonna be our transactions history. That's right, we're gonna be able to purchase our digital assets, and you're gonna see like that recent order that you see with regular Amazon. And this is that link to that page. So it's gonna be href of/history. And again, we don't have that set up just yet. We'll still have to make that page later. So within there, you guessed it, we're gonna have a div class name menu item, okay? And this one will have a React icon of AI outline history, okay? AI outline history, and the text it'll have is transaction history, because that's the page we wanna lead it. All right, again, doesn't exist. Let's get it. Oh, that's right, we have to close this div. That's more like it. There we go, awesome. And after that, after the closing div of the menu, the next thing we wanna make is the div for the company name. So class name dot company name, and this right here will have that image logo full. So we get a nice Amazon logo at the bottom of our sidebar. It is Amazon, and I can give this a height equal to 100 and the width equal to, okay, there she is. Awesome. Okay, let's get the rest of the styling, which is just gonna be the menu item and the Amazon logo, I believe. Okay, it's looking pretty good. The logo is a little bit off. I think it's because, what's the class name of this? Company name. Yeah, we need the company name CSS, which I have over here on the side. Boom. All right, so take a moment. This is the CSS. I hit save. There you go. Everything's lined up and beautiful. Awesome. And that's actually just the sidebar. Cool. In this section, I'm going to be setting up the context folder. And if you didn't know, in this app, we're going to be using the context API, so I can create all my variables and functions there and call it anywhere within my app by making them global. Let me show you what I mean by creating the folder. So I'm going to make a new folder, make sure it's at the root of the folder, we'll call it context. And inside that context folder, let's call it Amazon context.js. Awesome. Like I said, this context folder is going to set up the use context hook from React, and we're going to create a context so we can put all our variables and functions in like a global store that we can call anywhere in our app. So let's get started. First thing you're going to do is at the top, import all the hooks that you're going to use. So for me, I know in this context file, I want to be able to create context. Next thing I want to do is get the use state hook as well as the use effect hook since we're here. And I'm just going to import it from React. So got it? Cool. So after that, we're going to also import use Moralis, and later on we'll import something else, but for now this is fine. And you can guess where we're getting this from. It's React-Moralis. Nice. Cool. That should be good for now. The next thing you want to do is export const Amazon context, and then you want to set it equal to create context. Later on, we're going to be utilizing use context hook and passing in Amazon context inside that hook. Okay. Next thing you want to do is set up the provider, Amazon export const Amazon provider, and it's going to set equal to an arrow function. And inside the parameters here, it's going to take a destructured children. Awesome. And we can also set up the return while we're here. It's to return something like this. And what we're returning is the Amazon, context dot provider. Okay, and in between that, it's going to take children, and let me just format it nicely. Now here's the important part. Go into the opening tag of the provider and make some space like this, and what you want to do is add a value. Right, what you want to do here is anything that you put in these curly brackets is what's going to be global. So before we can pass anything inside this value prop, we need to create a couple things. Okay, so now that you put value, anything that you put in value that we create in this context is going to be passed so that it can be global. And this shouldn't be Amazon space provider. It should just be one word. There you go. So with that, the context is set up. The only thing you have to do now is go in your app.js and wrap the Amazon provider around this main component. All right, same thing we did with Moralis provider so that we can use Moralis within our app. We want to wrap the Amazon provider. So let's import that. Import Amazon provider from the context. So it'll be / I can see the context / Amazon context. Cool. And I want to wrap this within here. So I'm going to say Amazon provider, close it off, and wrap our main component within that. There you go. And once you do that, guys, we're able to use context within our app. All right, guys, now that we've set up our context, let's go ahead and start filling it out so that we can set up everything that we're gonna need for this sidebar. So before I continue, I wanna just quickly read what the sidebar component has. So I added a couple of things. It might look a little different from earlier, but this is the same gist, right? So there's something called isAuthenticated that we're gonna make in context, which is what we're gonna get from Moralis. It's a cool, isAuthenticated is something we can get from Moralis, which basically just checks if a user is connected to your application. So for example, if I didn't have a username, or on Moralis we'll call it nickname, there should be this input field that comes up, right? That's because of our conditional rendering. If isAuthenticated is true, we'll see this screen. But if there is no username, then it's gonna show this input field where I can set my nickname. That's what we're gonna set up with our context today. And just to show you, if you do have a nickname, we can pull that nickname from Moralis and you can see welcome your username, right? Alternatively, if you don't have a username, and if isAuthenticated is false, this is what we should see. Okay, so this is how it is hard-coded. We want to make it a little bit more dynamic. Okay, cool. Now that you got that, I just want to explain how the Connect wallet works. So we're using Web3 UI Kit, which is super cool. It sets up the login functionality for us. So if I were to click Metamask and click Next and Connect, we'll see that Moralis authentication is set up, hit sign, and nothing's going to change because I didn't make it so that these variables change. The conditional rendering isn't moving. But on Moralis' side, if I go into users and I make this a little bigger, there's nothing yet. That's the default thing. But if I hit refresh, there it is. A user is logged into the Moralis database. How cool is that? By just using one connect button component from Web3 UI Kit, you already have a login functionality. So that's super cool. Next step would be to make it so when I do connect my wallet, my front end matches to show that I am logged in. Because even though I logged in as a user, it's still not there. So let's get that set up. Let's see, let's bring my MetaMask back in. Cool. So just for the sake of time, to make this less confusing, I'm gonna disconnect my account and also refresh. So now I can be sure I'm not logged in. Another thing I'll do is let's delete the user that's stored on Moralis database because I'm gonna log back in again. Notice how it has a username, ETH address, created at password. So I'm gonna hit this, what is going on? Okay, cool. So I'm gonna just make it full screen, hit edit, and then you can delete a row. All right, that's essentially deleting off our database so there's no record of it. But don't worry, I'm gonna log back in soon. Cool. So we can hop back to our local host. What we're gonna need to do first in our Amazon provider is make use of our useState hook and keep track of a couple things. The first thing I'm gonna make is something called const username, right? This should look familiar because if you remember in our sidebar, this controls what my username is. We saw it as Lance. It's gonna be equal to the useState and it's gonna initialize it as empty string. Cool. Next, I'm gonna have something called nickname as a state. And this, it looks a little confusing, but is gonna control what I have in my input field. Let me show you. All right, so again, if I'm logged in, right? Set nick is going to control what is in this field and it's gonna run on change. And I have that set up over here. I have it commented out for now. Because what I'm gonna do is take that state on the input field and then set that as my username. So it makes sense. So let's go and set it up. Okay, use state. And by default, the input field should be blank. So I'm keeping that in mind by making it blank. All right, okay. Another thing we need to do is take a look at this use Moralis hook from React Moralis. There's a couple things that we need to grab from it. So I'm gonna set a lot of it up now. So I'm gonna say const, and I'm gonna say const authenticate is authenticated, enable web Moralis and user and is web3 enabled. I might not use all of these, so I'm gonna just grab all of them just in case. But for sure, what we're gonna use is authenticated for this part right here, okay? Cool, so we're getting all of these from the use Moralis and destructuring it. What I wanna do next is set up a use effect that whenever I do connect my wallet, I wanna be retrieving the username, or in other words, the nickname from my database, okay? So I'm gonna show you guys how to do that. Just clean this up real quick, cool. All right, set up a use effect now, okay? And use effect takes two parameters, which is just an arrow function, as well as a dependency module. Because use effect is gonna run at 3 different points in a component's lifecycle: when the component is mounted, when the component is updating, and when the component will unmount. So with the dependency module, you can control when you want your side effect to run. So if I leave it blank here, it's only gonna run when the component first loads. If I put a dependency module such as username, which I actually will later, this use effect will also run when the username changes. So think about how you want your code to work, and that's how you can structure your use effect. Okay, another thing I'm gonna do is add an async function here. And with this async function, I'm gonna set it up like so, wrap this around, and then I'm gonna put these parentheses. So it's like a self-calling function that's asynchronous. And what you wanna put here is a condition, right? Is authenticated. We're getting is authenticated from use Moralis. It basically just checks if the user is connected or authenticated. And if it's true, that means I'm logged in. So if I'm logged in, I'm gonna make a variable called const current use equals await user question mark dot get nickname. So this is how we are able to get the nickname from our Moralis database. And this question mark, it's just simply put on a high level, it's just making sure if there is a nickname, let's get it. Okay, and if there isn't, we won't need it. Cool. Okay, from there, we're gonna use one of our states and set our username to be the current username. So if this is confusing to you at all, if we look at our code here, what it's doing is when I log in, it's going to get a nickname. And once it gets the nickname from Moralis, it's gonna show up here. So what would that look like? That's the equivalent of me putting this as my username. So that's what we'd see. This is us retrieving the nickname that's there. If the user doesn't have a nickname yet, this is what we'll see. Make sense? Cool. I hope the visual helps you guys because it definitely helps me. So that's that. We're gonna come back here and do an else for getting the user's balance of their Amazon tokens. But for now, I'm only worried about this. So for this right here, I'm gonna use isAuthenticated user and username. So if any of these variables change, this use effect will run this get right here. Okay, so that's the use effect that we're gonna need. What we want to do next is create a function where if I were to type in, for example, Kevin inside this input field here, I want to be able to click set nickname and it will set my username on Moralis to be that, because not everyone's going to start off with a nickname. So to get started on that, we should create a function here. I'm gonna create a function and I'm gonna call it const handle set username. Okay. And in const handle set username, if there is a user, then I want something to run, right? If there's no user, we can just console log, hey, there is no user to set a nick, right? So not console log user, no user. So no user to set nickname. But if there is a user, I'm gonna have another check here is that if that user has a nickname, or in other words, if nickname here is filled out, like if I have Lance in there, what I want to do is do a user.set. What I wanna do is user, which is referencing the user in Moralis, .set parentheses nickname to be nickname. Okay, what this does is if I press set nickname, it's going to check if there's a user connected to our app. It's going to check if there's something in the input field, and in this line it's going to add a column in my Moralis database called nickname, store Lance as the nickname so that when we get it later, Lance will show up. Cool. So after that, what we want to do is user.save because we want to update our database. From there, we can just set nickname to empty string. So this will clear our input field when we're done. Okay, cool. And the else statement for this one is going to be an edge case for if there's nothing in the input field, you should just see a console that says can't set empty nickname. Okay, so that's the handle set username function. All right, so that looks good to me. What I want to do next is take a bunch of these things, take like everything we just made and put it in, because remember earlier I told you whatever you pass in this value here is going to be global throughout our whole app. So if you guys know anything about props, we can prevent prop drilling this way. So what I'm going to do is pass in isAuthenticated. We're going to need a nickname. We're also going to need set nickname, and we're going to need username. And while we're here, let's also get set username. Cool. So we're passing a lot of things into our value, but that's not going to make our app work, right? Because to use our context, we need to go back into the sidebar and let's import. I already took it for you. We want to import use context from React. And let's also import Amazon context from /context/Amazon context. So I'm gonna give you a moment to do that. Done? Cool. So let's use that hook. So to get started using that hook, I'm gonna come down here and we can say, okay, so to get started using context, the first thing we're gonna do is destructure our context. So what that means is write something like this, const curly bracket equals use context. Now you wanna put in the parentheses, what context would you like to use? If you remember at the top, I was talking about how I imported the Amazon context we set up. So I'm gonna pass that in here. Cool. Now the question is, from your Amazon context, what do you wanna take and destructure out of it? So let's see what's available. It's all of these. I wanna take all of these. So what you can do is quite literally write them all out. So just to make the format look nicer, I'm gonna say I want isAuthenticated. I also want nickname, set nickname, username. And now that I'm thinking about it, we should also be passing in our function, the one that we created, handle set username. So I don't think I'll need to set username here because that should be in our use effect. What I do need is the handle set user. Cool. So that's the last thing we're missing. Let's take handle set. Cool. So that's everything we need. And notice these little squigglies. That's because I have these variables. They already exist, but I don't need to use them anymore. What I can do now is take this out. Let's use our context. Oops. And now you can see I'm only seeing the connect wallet button because if I were to console log isAuthenticated, it's false right now. I haven't logged in, and that makes sense for our app. So a couple things that I'm going to do now is here I have it hard coded to Lance. It should be username. So let's see if this will break it. Let's do a template literal user. Awesome. So it didn't break it yet. we're going to make use of that username. The reason it's not breaking and saying username is not defined or it doesn't have a value is because of our conditional rendering. So if there is no username, then we'll see the connect wallet button. And that's how this is working right now. So what I want to do is comment back in this on change. So all this means is when there is no username, or in other words, no nickname, you should see that input field. And every time I type in that input field, it gets updated. Next thing I want to do is comment out this one, which is the on click, which runs the handle set username that I set up right here. Okay. Now it might just be the spelling handle set username. Okay. And let me just double check that's how I had it. Yep. There we go. Cool. So everything should be good now. Let's take a look and let's try it out. Don't forget to add these parentheses. I did a couple tests, right? What you can do now is let's refresh, and this should work now. After adding the parentheses, I'm gonna hit connect wallet, hit MetaMask, and let me just make this a little bit bigger. There you go. Hit MetaMask. Should see a little pop-up here. There it is. Connect with account 2. Hey, there we go. Look at that. So the button handles the login functionality. The use effect is gonna help us with our rendering. So now we have this, because now is authenticated is true, right? Is authenticated is true, but there's no username. So how do we add a username? We're gonna make use of our handle set username function. So what I'm gonna do is let's type in a name for me, Lance, and I'm gonna hit set nickname, right? And if we look over to our users, we should see 3 total. One is initially created when you first start out, but the first one at the top is the one that I just created just now, okay? So if you look at username, not username, if we look nickname, there it is, there's Lance, and when I was testing earlier, there was Lance, okay? So there we have it. Awesome. So now if I hit refresh, it's going to run that use effect to get the username. Hey, there we go. Welcome, Lance. And with that, that's all the context that we need for the sidebar. Okay, so let's move on to the products part of our build. All right, cool. So like I said, we're going to be working on the assets part of the Amazon clone. So if you remember the demo, you look, there was some beautiful moving digital assets that we could buy. So we have to set that up using Moralis' database. So what I'm going to do is let's make this full screen and let's head over to our Moralis dashboard. But if you didn't know, the Moralis database is built on top of MongoDB. So what we're going to need to do in order to pull our assets from the database is actually to set it up. So this part is setting up your assets on the Moralis database. Cool. So to get started on setting it up, hit this plus icon right here. And as you can see, you can create a new class, which creates a new collection of objects. What you want to do is select the class that you need. And there's some predefined ones over here like user, role, product, session, but we can create custom ones, which is cool. So I'm going to call this one assets. All right. What I want to do is create the class. So now we have our assets over here. What we need to do next is add the fields for our asset object. So what I'm going to do is add a new column. And here you can store the type of data that we want. So as you can see, by default, it's string, but you could also store booleans, numbers, date, geopoint, file, a pointer, relational, make a relational database, and much more. So a bunch of cool things you can do. For the most part, we're going to be keeping it simple by making all these strings. So the first key of our object would be name. And as you can see, it instantly adds the name column into our assets. All right, cool. So you don't have to just keep clicking add a column. If you think about the next key, it's price, and you can click add column and continue if you know you're going to make more. So we made price. Now let's also make src, which holds the image of our asset. And that's going to be the last one. Okay, 1 second. Okay. And then from here, let's add the actual assets itself. So what we're going to do is actually create a new row. And in this row, you're going to see a lot of these are automated. What you want to do is start defining the name, price, and source, right? So don't worry, this is where you can add your own unique assets. So if you don't like ours and you want to have some cooler things that you want to show, like your own NFTs that you've made, this is where you put that in. You put the name, price, and source here. For me, I have a JSON file that you guys will have access to that you can include for your project. So if I scroll down below, I have a products.json, and you can see a lot of it here. So I'm going to be referencing this from time to time. So the first thing I have here is something called Bricktopian. And let's see if I can see this. Cool. So now you guys can see it better. What I'm going to do is just copy the name of it, Bricktopian, and I'll also format it like this, and I'll show you like that. So the first part of this is name Bricktopian. You can double click the field here and double click to make sure you see this little line, and you can just paste the name. That's it. Bricktopian is the name. I remember the price. It's actually 2. And what I don't remember is actually the source file. So click copy everything in the source. You don't need the quotes, and you can put that in the source field. Okay, cool. You're going to do that for every single asset. I'm going to be moving a little bit fast now. And remember, if you want to use ours, use the JSON. And if you want to use your own, feel free to fill it in. There we go. We have about 8. You can add as much as you want. I just want to make sure our app is full with amazing things. So there you go. That's the products Next thing I'm going to do is let's set up the front end of our app now. All right, so now that we finished setting up the assets on our Moralis database, I need a cool way to show them, because if you look, our app is looking pretty bland, right? There should be a main component here that shows all our pretty assets that we just added. So I'm going to make this smaller again, and let's focus on the code. So if you remember, I'm going to go to my index, and we also have this main component right here. So let's set that up. I'm going to hit Control B, and let's add another component here. And I'm going to say main.js. Cool. And if you guys have the extension, you can do an RAFCE. It will set up your component for you, and we should be good to go. Next thing we can do is flip back to our index, and let's bring in our main. And all you need to do to set up your main component is to write it like so, and then be sure to import it into your app. So I'm going to say main from components/main. So I'll hit save. It's a weird error there. There you go. So see, our main component is there. It's going to look a little funny because we don't have the header and the features just yet. So let's hop over to main and start building it out. What I usually like to do is build out all the JSX first. So I'm going to format it. And another thing I like to do is set up any import statements we might need. So thinking ahead, I'm just going to use a use context because I'm going to bring in context here later, and also use effect. Sorry, not use effect. I'm going to bring in use context, and that should be it for now. Okay. If I want to utilize use context, we should also be getting our Amazon context while we're here. It's not going to come into play yet. I'm just going to be making the front end first. Cool. So this is our first outer div. What I'm going to do, I'm going to give it a class name of styles.container. And within the main, there's actually 3 components in here. So I was mentioning it earlier. I'm going to make a header component, right? I'm going to make a featured component, and as well as a cards component. The cards component is going to represent where all our digital assets of the store are going to be. So I'm going to comment out the ones I'm not going to build yet. I want to focus more on the cards. Cool. If you save this, you're going to get error because we haven't defined our styles object and set up our Tailwind. So what I'll do is set that up now. And I'm just going to do a const style equals an object. And the first one I'm going to do is container. And it's going to be h-full, width full, give it a flex property. And then you're going to want it to be in columns. Then you're going to say mt is 50 pixels and pr brackets 50 pixels as well. Do Alt-Z here so you can see it a little bit better. Let's zoom in a bit. Cool. How's that, guys? Yeah, I know. It's a lot better. Overflow dash hidden. And that's it for container. All right, we only have container here, but thinking ahead, I'm going to have a bunch more stylings. So I'm going to set that up now. There's something that's called recent title. And for recent title, I'll have text -2 XL, font bold. Oops, it doesn't need these commas. There you go. Font bold, text center, MB 20 pixels, text center, MT-40 pixels. And that's going to be it for recent title. There's also going to be a cool recent transactions list. So all the digital assets that we set up for our database, you're going to be able to buy them with Amazon coins. And the Amazon coins is something that we're going to make that you can use for your site. So I'm going to make a recent transactions list that shows my recent transactions. So, but I'm getting too excited. We're not making that yet. I'm just going to do the styling for it in the future. So transaction card is next. Let's add that comma back in here. And as for styling, it has a flex property, and we can do a justify between here. All right, MB 20 pixels. It's going to be P-30 pixels. Let's give it a background of hashtag 42667E. Make the text white. Rounded -XL. Shadow -XL. Font bold. Give it a nice gap of 20 pixels. And again, if I'm moving too fast for you guys, feel free to pause the video so you cannot miss any of the stylings. Cool. So again, the only thing that we really have is the container. And again, we're seeing cards is not defined. Let's go ahead and make that component cards with an s.js. Then you're going to do an RAFCE. Hit that. Cards is set up. You can go into back to main, and let's import card. Import cards. There we go. So we got main, and we also have cards. Okay, so let's move on to the cards component. One moment. Switching to cards. All right. So like I said, the cards component is going to contain all of our assets, right? So what I want to do here, import anything we might need, which is going to be use state, use context, and that should be good for now. And we can import Amazon context because we're going to be using that later. I'm just setting it up for now. Okay, time to work on the RJSX for cards, which isn't too many, just like our main. I'm going to give this div a class name called styles.container. Not style sheet, thank you, container. All right, from there, we're going to make another div, class name. This one will be called title. Right, we're going to have a new release here. New release. That's how you spell it. Cool. Let's make another div. And here we'll have a cards div. So it'll be styles.cards. So we're going to do div class name styles.cards. And then within here, this is actually where I want to map through another component for each asset. So what do I mean? We're going to be getting the assets into here from our context, and I'm going to map through each asset. And for every asset, I'm going to make a card component, right? This is actually the individual card that each asset is held in. We're going to get squigglies because we need to make a cards component. So I'll just do card, no s.js, RAFCE, save, hit enter, save, cool. And now that we have this here, I'm going to go ahead and import it, import card from, yep. If you save, we'll get the styles error is not defined. And let's go ahead and write our Tailwind CSS. So I'm going to set up the styles. And again, for cards, there's not much CSS as well. It's just container going to be h-full, width full, flex column, ml-20 pixels. Oh, I actually got to put that in -t 50 pixels as well. And again, I'm going to Alt-Z so you guys can see it better. Yep, awesome. So I'm going to do title, and I'm going to go like this. Let's make that text Excel font bolder, MB-20 pixels, MT-30 pixels, ML-30 pixels. There you go. Cool. So that's the title CSS. Then we want to get the card CSS. Oh, and if you see that, a comma here, then we're going to give it a flex property. You want to do an item center and then a flex wrap. And let's give it a gap of 80 pixels. Let's go. Okay, hit save. Now we don't see any more errors. Shouldn't see much styling here because it just should say new releases and looks really small. Let's go ahead and check that out. Okay, so yeah, that's the cards component. You won't see new release. It's going to look funny, but that's because we haven't set up our header yet. I have some spacing for that. So don't worry, that's totally normal. All right, I want to show you guys the cards first, get the cool features done first. So there's the cards. Again, for the card here, what we need to do is a key. Oops. What we need to do here is a key equals item.id. There, let's do an item equals item attributes, right? And again, we don't have any of those things. So if I were to do something like, so you're going to see an error called item not defined. That's because we're not pulling any actual assets. So temporarily, let's make a couple variables. I want to make an item here. I want to make a variable called const item, make it an object, and let's just give it an ID of 0. And there's going to be an attributes here. And I believe attributes will also be an object with the name. So I'm going to make, like I said, I'm making the item variable, and I'm going to make some static data, and I'm going to make an attributes key because when I pull the assets from Moralis, we get it through the attributes. I'm just going to hard code it like this for now. And the name, it could be anything. It could be, I don't know, right? Then price, let's make it 2. And for SRC, let's just pull a random SRC from our JSON. Let's do products.json. And I think there actually was a Doge one. Let's see. You can get whatever you want on this. Yep, that's the one. I'm gonna hit so you can see it. And you don't have to follow this step necessarily. I just want to give you guys a good idea of what it might look like. One card, what it might look like before pulling it. Cool. So there you go. There is the item. Now we don't get item is not defined. I have a static one. So let's head over to our card.js now. Okay, moving over to card.js. If you remember, the way I'm passing down item.attributes is with the key. So let's deconstruct that, and just say item here. So I don't have to say item.attributes. It's just going to be known as item. And for the card, let's do the JSX now. So this is the fun part. Going down below to div, I'm going to have a class name of styles.cardContainer. Okay, cool. And then within that div, we're going to have another one, which will have a class name of card. So we'll say styles.card. Okay, cool. Here will contain an image. And if I hit save by accident, that's why we get an error. But here we're going to have an image. So that tells me we need to import next image. So I'm going to say import image from next image. It shouldn't be that like that. It should be more like this. And while we're here, let's set up any other imports, which I know I want to have a use context here. And if I have a use context here, I also want Amazon context here as well. The only other thing is I want to import FA coins from React icons. And you can do /FA. There you go. And that should be it for the imports. Cool. So like I was saying, inside the card, let's include an image, self-closing. And the SRC is going to be item.s. Okay. Class name. For the class name, I can actually give it some inline styling, which is going to be object cover, object center. Oh, if you see squiggly lines, that's because it needs an alt prop. Sorry about that. So I'm going to do a width. It's going to be 190, height 250. Make it like a rectangular kind of shape. It's going to be, alt is going to be product. All right, cool. And we're almost done here, but the next thing I want after we get the image set up is make another div within here, and that is going to have another one with the class name of card title. This is going to hold the title of our card, so styles.card title. Okay. And then here we can have item.name. Okay. And the next div, right next to it, we're going to have another div called class name equals styles.price. Okay. And here in our container for the card, we're going to have item.price in Amazon coins. And Amazon coins, just a real quick recap, is just a token that we're going to create just for our app. So we're also going to show you guys how to do that later on. So Filecoins equals styles.coins. Cool. And that should be it. Let's see, what am I missing? Oh, so you have to make this self-closing. There you go. Awesome. And to get rid of that annoying error, let's make our style. So I'm going to say const styles equals object. Okay, cool. There's a couple more, like there's a bit more of CSS in this one. So this is the card container. And in that card container, we're going to do a flex, give it a flex property of flex column. And then in the card itself, there's a couple of things that we need to write. It's going to be h dash bracket 250 pixels with 190 pixels, rounded 3xl flex. Let's give it a cursor dash pointer transition dash all. And don't worry, I'll do an Alt-Z for you. Okay, can you guys see now? Awesome. Let's give it a duration of 300, hover dot scale dash 105, hover scale dash 105, hover shadow dash XL, overflow dash hidden, and give it a border dash black, shadow dash XL, border dash 4, border equals hashtag FB9701, I believe. Yes. Okay, cool. A comma, and that's all it is for card. Now it should be smooth sailing from here. So I'm going to do a card title, and let's make that text large. Okay, we can also give it a font bold, give it a flex property, and we can do a text center with full flex 1, justify dash center, empty dash bracket 10 pixels. And again, if I'm going too fast, feel free to pause the video so you don't miss a thing. So do price text dash MD, font dash bold, flex, justify dash center, coins. It's gonna be that ml dash 10. Oops, ml 10 pixels. And there you go. Let's hit save. Hey, look at that. All right, so if I were to bring this up, nice. So that's what our card is going to look like. Isn't this cool? So can you imagine, if you remember the demo, all the assets that you made, it's gonna look super sick. So I'm super excited about that. There you go. That is the front end. Let me show you guys how to actually pull the assets from Moralis. So now that we have our amazing Doge here, I'm gonna go back to my Amazon content and let me show you guys how to query our Moralis database. So one of the first things I'll do is let's set up the state to keep track of it. So I'm gonna say const assets, comma, set assets. Okay, and this is where we're going to store the data that we get from our DB. So we want to initialize this with an empty array. And then from there, remember how we deconstructed use Moralis query? It's a hook that we can use to make querying the DB a lot easier, which is super cool from Moralis. So what we're going to do is set it up, which is going to be similar like this. Should be something like this. So const use Moralis parentheses, and then within the parentheses here, you have to put quotes and then the name of the class. So if you remember, I called mine assets with a lowercase. It's going to be case sensitive to what you wrote. So if I were to do underscore user, I would get the users class. So there you go. I'm getting the assets from my database. Let's destructure a couple things. It's going to be data. It's going to be data. It's going to be assets data. And then let's get an error here. If there is an error, we can do assets data error. There's also a loading state that we can take advantage of if you want to. So I'm going to say user data is loading. Cool. So we get those three things from our Moralis query. And then from down below, we need to make a function to set our asset state. And can you see where I'm going this? Once we set our asset state, we need to go utilize our context API and get a bunch of dynamic cards. 1 second. Down below in line 49, I'm going to make a function called get assets equals arrow. Cool. And like I said, all this is going to do is set the state. So I'm going to do a try catch block here. And that means you also have to make this asynchronous. And the catch, all it is pretty standard. It's just catch error. And you can just do a console.log error. Okay. Then from here, I want to do an await enable web3. And then down below, I'll also have a set assets. And then you want to pass in assets data. And if you forgot what assets data is, it's exactly what we're querying. Use Moralis query is doing a lot of the heavy lifting here. All right, cool. So we did the get assets functions. We did await enable web3. I put a console log here to see if it's running. I feel like we don't need that anymore. So this is our assets function. And as you can see, we're waiting to enable web3. And if it's enabled, then we can set our asset state. Okay, so now you have that function. What we need to do next is let's make a use effect that calls that function. So I want to say use effect. And it takes two parameters, the side effect you want to perform, as well as the dependency module, which controls when you want to perform the side effect. And what I want to do in here is another asynchronous function. You can make it call itself like that. And then from there, what I want to do is if is Web3 enabled. If it is enabled, then what I want to do is await get assets. Okay, cool. So we might come back to this one later, but for now, what I want to do is a dependency, which is going to be get assets and is web enabled. Okay, and now that we set up our context, what I want to do next is update our provider with the variables and functions we want to use, and that's just going to be assets. Okay, I'm gonna hit save, and then from there we can head over to cards, because this is where we're going to call our context. This is where we're going to call assets with our context. So we already have the hook set up here. All we need to do is come down below and set it up. So if I do const object equals use context, pass in the context you would like to use. We only have one, and what you want to take from it. So I'm destructuring assets from our context. And if I have this assets here, we're not going to need the static card anymore, as well as our static items. We have our database. So before I have a lot of fun with our database, I'm just going to console log assets here. So let's hit save. Cool, we lose our little doggy, but he'll come back. Don't worry. So let's make this a little bit bigger, and let me inspect elements. Hit console, and let's go. We have an array of 18, and that is exactly what we need. So at index 0, we have all of this stuff. What we need is inside attributes. So that's why we set it up the way we did. So cool. So we're getting our data. What we need to do next is actually map through it. So there's 18 things. What we can do is asset.map. Okay, and for every single asset or item, we're gonna make a card component, just like we did before. So card, pass in the key as item.id, and we pass in the attribute, the item as item attributes, I believe. If I hit save, okay, let's map through it, and let's see if it's in our console. And if we look, it says 18, so that's good. So it's all there. We're not seeing each card, maybe because we should return. Let's go ahead and add a return statement. Cannot read properties of source. Okay, that's fine. Oh, I thought I had str, I accidentally deleted it. Hit save, and now let's find out what's up. Cool, so now I'm returning, but now it says array 0. Let's try refreshing. Okay, so now it's not querying at all. Let me go back to my context and let's look at the dependency modules. Let's put in assets data, and assets data is loading. Maybe that would help. Cannot parse source. Okay, so if you see this error, that must be something on our database. What I could do is full screen this, and let's take a look. Oh, I see it. Yep, in here this is wrong. It should just be no quotes, just that. Take out the ending quote. There we go. All right, yeah, so that should be fine now. Move back to here. Now it should be able to parse it. Hey, okay, they're slowly loading in. We got the RoboCat, we got Skull, we got RTFK Punk, got product. Okay, so there we go. We're getting the assets. Now we have to do is make sure that it's all loading in properly. So if we look at RTFKT Punk, we can go double check that with our asset and double check if the link is broken. I want to just copy this. Okay, it's RTFKT Punk. No key. Okay, that's there. This is it. This is our beautiful assets. That makes me happy to see. But look at that. This is our digital marketplace. So doesn't this look amazing? What we need to do now is let's add a header, the features, and let's make it so that we can actually buy these tokens. So I'm going to work on that next part. But let's get excited. Our app is getting jacked. All right, guys, in this section, we're going to be setting up the smart contract. This is the part you've been waiting for. This is the blockchain Solidity part. But before I do, when I'm looking at this app, it looks amazing, but I think I want to make it so that the borders match the theme of the Amazon colors. So what we can do is, let me just quickly do this and click on this, my VS Code, cool. And to make it a lot better, what I'm going to do is head over to my cards.js. And instead of border black, it should be a yellow color. And I think the reason why is because this should not be an equals. This should be a dash. So go ahead and fix this in your CSS so it can match the Amazon colors a lot better. So now I can take a look. Boom. So now it's looking more like an Amazon item, right? Look at that. Awesome. So without further ado, let's head into the smart contract section. All right, so since this is purely the smart contract section, we're not going to be needing to look at the website. We're going to just focus on our VS Code. So one of the first things we need to do is let's go ahead and create a new folder and make sure it's not in public. Make sure it's at the root, and I'm going to call it smart contract. Okay, so now that we have a smart contract folder, everything in the smart contract folder is where all of the relevant files we need to compile and deploy our smart contract. So let me clear this out. Awesome. And let me open my terminal as well. And we can kill our web app for now. What you want to do is cd into the smart contract folder, and we're going to be installing something called Hardhat. Hardhat is an environment that helps you test, deploy, and compile the smart contracts that you create. So to get started, we can do an npx hardhat. Right, so write npx hardhat in your terminal and make sure you're in the smart contract folder and enter, and it should set up all the boilerplate code that we're going to need to do that. Okay, now that's done. What you want to do is create a basic sample project. Go ahead and hit enter again, and you can go ahead and git ignore. And for this, you can say, so look at that. So now that the project folder is created, you can see that there's a contracts folder, a scripts folder, a test folder, and all of these other things. So if you look at your package.json, you should have a couple of things. If you're not, on their website, they provide all the packages that you need to install. But I actually have it saved right here, and I'm just going to paste that command they told me to write. So I should be able to use it. Awesome. So after you do npx hardhat and set up our environment, let's take a look at our package.json, and you're going to notice that sometimes there's a couple of things missing. Luckily, Hardhat provides you with all the modules that you need in case it doesn't show up. So it's all of this. Feel free to take a look or look it up the documentation, but you'll see it in a second when I install. All right, so I'm going to do an npm install and install all these packages. Okay, so double checked one of the packages wrong, but now it should be good to go. And let's install all these packages. All right, cool. So all the packages are installed. Our Hardhat is set up. Our environment is set up. And the only thing we need to do now is let's install Open Zeppelin. Okay, so I'm going to do another npm install here and do @open/contracts. Okay, so if you didn't know, as I'm installing this, Open Zeppelin is a library of Ethereum contracts that follow a certain standard. So instead of writing up all the contracts yourself and making sure that your contract fits the ERC20 standard, what you could do instead is import the Open Zeppelin library and just build on top of it. If you're familiar with classes at all, think if you had a class called Ferrari extends car. We have a Ferrari class that's building on top of the already established car class. Same thing here. We're building off the standard and making our tokens in top of it. Sounds good? So there you go. So now you can see Open Zeppelin inside our dependencies, which means we're good to go. And let's start writing our smart contract. All right, guys, in this section, I'm going to be showing you guys what you need to do to write your first smart contract. As you can see, if you look and click on greeter.sol, you're going to notice that this is an example template smart contract given to us by Hardhat. And if you didn't know, we're coding on the Ethereum blockchain, and one of the main programming languages there is Solidity. So we use Solidity to create something called a smart contract. If you don't know and you're new to the Web 3.0 space, a smart contract, you can think of it like a vending machine. So with a vending machine, if you want, let's say, a soda, you're going to click the soda button, you're going to put in your money, you're going to click the soda button, and what you get back is the soda itself, right? Instantly. So for a smart contract, you can set up some conditions that you want to happen. For us, we want to create Amazon tokens in exchange for people's Ethereum. We want to use Amazon tokens as our actual currency for our app. So if you wanted to make your own token, this is going to be a good tutorial to follow. So one thing we can do is we can actually delete the greeter.sol file, right? Delete the greeter.sol file. And what I'm going to do is make this a little bit bigger that you can see. And one thing that you're going to need is an extension. If you go in here and type in Solidity, you're going to find something by Juan Blanco. Go ahead and install that. This is a VS Code extension so that it provides the Ethereum Solidity language support for VS Code. Okay, so install it, add it to extensions, and now we can go back to our code, and in the smart contract folder under contracts that's now empty, let's make a new file and let's call it amazoncoin.sol. Cool. So here we go. We have amazoncoin.sol. Okay. And what we want to do next is for Open Zeppelin helps us build out our smart contracts, because this smart contract is going to be ERC20 standard. All that means is a smart contract made for tokens. Okay. With that in mind, if you're looking at this and you're like, Lance, I don't know what to start writing. The cool thing is Open Zeppelin has documentations and this contract wizard that can help you set up the base of your contract. Okay. So I actually have it set up. So I'm just going to paste it in here. And now let's switch their screen sizes around. And there we go. So head over to this website on the top, docs.openzeppelin.com/contracts/4.x/wizard. Right? You get pointed to this screen and it shows you the default contract. So one cool thing about Solidity while we're here, and then you can import anything that you might need, is first you have to specify the version. And here is where the contract is. It's kind of like a class, right? So if you look, you can select which standard you want. So if you can click ERC 721, or the one we're going to need is ERC 20. Okay. Now analyzing this code, if you're familiar with classes at all, my token, right? You can think of my token as our class, and it extends the ERC20 standard. So we're building on top of it. Cool. So like I said, we can use this to build the base of our app, and the name of our contract, we can just be Amazon coin, and the symbol for our token will just be AC. So notice how you type in the parameters and it builds out the base of the contract for you. So another thing we can do is click any features that you want your contract to have. So here are a couple of different ones. The one I know for sure that I need is the mintable one. Okay, so make it mintable. It adds this function mint, which can allow us to mint the tokens that we want. So what I'm going to do is copy that over and place it in our smart contract. So it's just a super helpful tool to get you started, especially for my beginners out there. So what I'm going to do is make this small again. Okay, cool. So let's paste that. And one thing you're going to notice is public only owner. We don't want that to be only owner. We actually want this to be payable. So add that trait there. And you're going to see address to. We're actually not sending these mint tokens to a specific address. We're going to just erase that parameter, and we just need UN256 amount. Okay. Awesome. And you know what? I'm actually just going to full screen this. Okay, cool. Now you can see it a lot better. The next thing we need to do is add a require here. Require. And for this require, we're going to use it as a check to see that the amount that is needed to send is equal to the amount of tokens that we want to get. So we can write that and express it like message.value equals amount times 0.000 ether, comma, invalid amount of ether. So don't get scared by this line. All it's saying is that if the amount that we need to send is equal to the amount of tokens that we want, which is just a parameter I'm passing in. So for example, if I want 3 Amazon tokens, we have to convert it by this ether amount to match the message.value. And if that is true, we can go ahead and mint those tokens. Yeah, cool. And then if you see a comma, invalid amount of ether, is if there's any sort of error, it's going to run that string and show us that. Cool. And here is the actual minting of the tokens. And here, and to replace to, you can say message.sender, right? So give the tokens to us. And the amount is still going to be amount. And the last thing we're going to need to do is receive external payable. Because like I said, we're not sending these tokens or ether to anybody else. We're sending it straight to the smart contract, which is cool. We're putting in our money in the vending machine, and the vending machine is giving us back tokens. Okay, so we're going to do a fallback, external payable, and cool. There we go. If you look, another important thing to note about Solidity, it's very strict about the semicolons. So if you get any sort of errors, squiggly lines, double check that. But that's it for the smart contract. That wasn't so bad, but there you go. All right, so now that we deployed our contract, the next thing we're gonna do is come back to our actual app and let's start setting up our header so that we can put really cool functionality to it. One thing you're gonna need is in your package.json, make sure you have React simple hook modal installed, okay? Once you do, we can just go over to our pages, go to _app, and from here, what you wanna do is import that modal. So I'm gonna say import modal provider from React simple hook modal. Okay, and one thing that we're going to need to do is put this modal as one of the most inner ones. So I'm going to say modal provider, close it off, and we can close off and wrap it around our app. There you go. So that's set up. The next thing you want to do is we can hop over to, let's check out index, right? And then actually we want to go to main. So what we want to do next is let's go over to main, and remember our header component. We're going to go and make that. So what we're going to need to do is go to components and say new file and say header.js. Cool. The drill. RAFCE. Then we can import it, import header from header, and comment this bad boy. I'm stuck with featured. So what I'll do is do this and then comment featured out. Cool. So now we have a header. So move back to header. Okay, cool. So the header is going to have the functionality of where we can buy Amazon coins in exchange for our Ethereum. So to set it up, I'm going to do a lot of the import statements first. And I know I'm going to use context later, because that's the one where you're going to need to talk to the smart contract for. Oops. So we're going to do import react, comma, use context. Okay, cool. And there's also an Amazon logo here that comes from my assets. Say import logo from /asset/ Amazon _logo _full.png. And I should have that. Let me just double check. Yep, it's there. Cool. Okay. We can also import image from next image. And I don't know why it's doing this particular one, but it should just be like that. And the next thing we can do is import any of the icons I want to use. So I'm just going to do import CG menu grid O from React icons /CG. Okay, another one. You just clean this up. Another icon we want is IOMD search, I believe. And that's the same place except IO. Cool. Import FA coins from the icon / awesome. And now that I'm thinking about it, we should also import our Amazon context. There you go. Awesome. Like I said, we're going to be using a modal here that we installed with our packages. So let's destructure it right here and say modal provider, comma, modal, use modal, and modal transition. I don't think we're going to use all of these, but I'm just going to have them just in case. And the last thing is from React simple hook modal. There's also some styling that I want to import from there. So if I say import React simple hook modal /dst/styles.css, we should be good to go. And that's going to be it for now. What we want to do next is let's go ahead and set up our JSX. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is for our div, let's give it the class name of styles.container, not style sheet. Okay. Let's have another div with the class name styles.logo, because this is where the logo is going to go. All right. We can insert an image here and let's just set it up. Okay. Is source is equal to logo, alt Amazon, height is 100, width is also equal to 100. And we can also give this an image, a class name, of object cover, right? That's the CSS we want to apply to it with Tailwind. And from there, in the next line, we can do another div. This one will have a class name, style.search, it's a little search bar with an input. We can actually make input self-closing. All right. This is where the type is going to equal text, placeholder, search your assets, styles.search input. Cool. So after those inputs, in the next line within that div, we can put the icon for the search. And you can make the font size equal to 20. All right. After that, we can make another div. This one's going to be called menu. So we'll say style.menu, styles.menu. And within that menu, there's going to be menu item. So if I do div with a class name dot menu item, what you can do next is copy it 2 times. Okay. But then this first one is going to be new releases. And the second one is going to be featured. Okay, still inside the menu, I'm going to have some conditional rendering, which is basically going to check if there's a balance. And again, this balance thing doesn't exist, so keep that in mind. And it doesn't exist yet. If balance exists, what I want to happen is a div. And within that very div, it'll have the class name styles.balance and styles.menu item. Okay, and it's going to have an onClick to open our modal. Okay. All right. So now it's our first modal function. So what we can do to actually get it working is say const object equals use modal. And this is where we can get that open modal from. So I'm going to destructure it from there. We also want is modal open and close modal. Okay. Awesome. And then in between that div, finally, we can put our balance in there just to show off how much coins that we do have. Okay. And we're still in the menu item. We want fa coins with the class name of styles.coins. And here we can actually start using the modal itself. So you say modal, you want to say is open is equal to is modal open. You want to say transition equal to modal transition dot scale in all capital. And within that modal, we also are going to have a component. So here, I'm going to comment it out for now, but there's going to be a by modal component that's going to it's going to pass in a prop. So let me set it up. By modal, and this doesn't exist just yet, but it will soon. So close is going to be close modal, and there's going to be a by tokens equals by tokens. By tokens is going to be a function that we're going to call that's going to let us convert our Ethereum to the Amazon coins that we set up by talking to our smart contract. Cool. So there it is. Okay. After that closing div, what you want to do now is have the closing parenthesis here, colon, and have another open run right here. Okay, cool. So in the very next line, we can set up another div. This one has a class name as well. That is going to be just the styles.balance, styles.menu item. Cool. And I just realized this should probably be in parentheses. There we go. Awesome. I'm going to zoom out a bit because I can't really see it. But let me do an Alt-Z as well. Okay, cool. So this is also going to have an onClick that doesn't exist yet as well. This has an onClick that has open modal actually, open modal. And then when in here, we can say 0 AC. Because if they don't have a balance, you can assume that they don't have any coins. So you can say 0 AC file coins, styles.coins. Close it off, have another modal here, do it is open, is modal open, transition can be modal transition dot scale, just like before. And there's actually a different types of transitions you can have for these modals. It doesn't have to be scale, so feel free to look it out if you want to use something else. And again, there's going to be another bimodal here, so I'll just copy it. Now let me get the closing div for this, and see, am I missing? Okay, so that should be it. There is one more thing though. There should be a CG menu grid, font size of 30, class name of styles menu item again, and there we go. Let's see what's missing. Should be it. It's literally this last div. Oh, I see the issue now. There we go. Nice. Okay, so my header is good. All I need to do now is start the CSS, and to start the CSS, I'm going to do const styles equals object. And let's get started. So there's a couple things with the styles on this one. Let's do another container. And that container is just going to contain height of 60 pixels, width dash full, flex. Let's do an item center here. Let's do Alt C as well. Item center here, gap of 5, and px dash 16. Comma here, and then that's the container. The next thing you want to do is let's style that logo. And for the logo, we want flex items dash center. You want an ML bracket 20 pixels. You want cursor dash pointer flex dash 1. You want to search here, and the search is going to be p minus 25 px, mr dash 30 px, and w for 400 px. Okay, we can do a height here of 40 pixels, and in that search bar we want the background to be white, rounded dash full, shadow can be dash lg, and we want the flex property here, flex items center border dash black. So that's the search. Let's also work on the search input. And for the search input, we're just going to make the background transparent. We're going to have the focus on the outline dash none, and the border none, flex dash 1, items dash center flex. Cool. Next we have menu, and for the menu we can have flex as items dash center, text dash md dash bold, cursor dash pointer. Lastly, we'll have the coins, which is just going to be ml dash 10 px. And don't forget to put a bracket around that actually. There we go. Let's go. Awesome. So there we go. This is the header.js, and let's just see if it's running by opening up our terminal. Let's do netlify dev, and let's give it a second to open up. It's going to refresh this. It says not found, which is interesting. And then go to 8888. Why does it say not found? Okay, it says not found. That's probably because it's still loading. Oh, I see. Yeah, because we're still in the smart contract folder. I forgot the cd out of it. Make sure you are over here in the main folder, and now you can do netlify. There we go. I'll hit refresh now. Oh, I see. I've accidentally put the hook outside. This should actually be inside. So I'm gonna take this back out and go in here. Okay, so now I can give it a nice refresh. See, oh, no typo here. There should be an S and balance. Oh, like I said, we have some conditional rendering with something called balance, which holds our Amazon tokens or coins, but that doesn't exist yet. So I'm gonna make a const balance here and set that equal to, let's say 99, or a string 99 rather. Okay, and it looks really ugly. That's because it's pretty squished in, but there we go. Okay, awesome. If you look at it, it's not quite there yet. So let me just check on that CSS. Let me see, am I missing anything? Oh, of course, I need the menu item. Yeah, so this actually is the menu item, and we should actually have menu. And menu is just gonna be flex items dash center, and I need to give this a gap. That's why it's a little smushed in, and then comma. So now let's take a look. That looks way cleaner. Now there's this new release thing, and we can fix that up. That's from earlier. But other than that, that header looks pretty clean. Here is our input field. Awesome. All right, now let's head over to our context to add some functionality for our header. So here we go. What I need to do now is hop over to your files, and what we need to do is create another folder. So the next step, create a folder, call it lib, and inside this lib folder is going to be something called our constants.js. This will make sense in a moment. And also inside your lib folder is if you go to your smart contract and you go to artifact and go under contracts, you're going to see something called amazoncoin.json, and make sure it's not amazoncoin.dbg. You want just the .json. So it's going to be whatever name, and go ahead and copy it and put it in your lib folder along with your constants.js. Cool. So what you want to do from there, now that you copied it over, you can say import Amazon coin from /amazoncoin.json. So I'm importing this .json so that later I can extract the ABI from it, which we'll need later. So next line, export const Amazon coin address is going to equal a string that's going to have your smart contract's address. Saved mine over here. Remember I told you guys to save it, and I'm going to paste it in there, and there we go. There's your Amazon coin address. And lastly, we want to export const Amazon ABI and set that equal to Amazon coin.abi. Okay, so we got the ABI from our Amazon coin.json and storing it in a variable and then exporting it. With that, our constants and our lib folder should be good to go. We should just go into our Amazon context and let's update it with the functionality for buying tokens. Just give me 1 second. So cool. So since this is mostly just functionality and we're not going to see anything on the front end yet, let's make this full screen, putting down our terminal, do something like this, and there you go. So let's import all those things that we exported. So let's say Amazon ABI and Amazon. Okay, yep, and just double check it does exist, Amazon coin address. Cool. And not only that, we're gonna need to import Ethers from Ethers. And if you're not sure, double check in your package.json that you have Ethers, and we should have earlier in the video. There it is. Okay, cool. So we have all of that. Next thing we can do is set up a couple states. And what I wanna add right now is something called the current account, which is gonna hold the current account's address. So this will be set current count equals use state, and it can be empty string at first. Awesome. Next thing I want to do is const token amount. So token amount is going to keep track of how many tokens that I want to request for my app. Set token, set that equal to use state. Next one I want to set up is something called amount due. You can do set amount due. That can equal use state. Okay. Another variable that I want to set up is the ether scan link. All right. Ether scan link. It's going to do exactly what it says, which is going to keep track of the Etherscan link so that you can click it and prove that your transaction was real. Etherscan. Okay. Oops, little typo here. There you go. Next, let's add another one. This one is called is loading. Loading is going to keep track and help us out with the modal, because if loading is true, then I should see like this loading animation, which will make more sense later. Oops, loading. There you go. Loading equals use state. And actually this should be initialized to false. And last but not least, but also the most important one, we should also keep track of our balance. And by balance, how much Amazon coins do we currently have, which will also be an empty string. So that was a lot of different states. We're going to be putting them into the provider much later. But what I want to do next is set up the functions that we're going to need. Okay, so coming down to the bottom at the top here, I'm going to make another function and let's call it get balance. And it's going to be asynchronous. And if something's asynchronous, usually it has a try catch, which will have an error, which always usually console logs that error. Nice. Okay. So with that said, let's work on the try block. So what we can do is if user is not authenticated or there is no current account, which is the new state we set up, we're just going to return, right? And so that's the edge case. But if there is a current account and they are authenticated, then we want to do const options. Const options equals object, because we're going to pass options in just a little bit. But the way we want to set up this object is something like this. We say the contract address, right? And then we pass in the Amazon coin address. I'm letting my code know that this is the contract that I want to talk to. And I'm going to say function name. What function do I want to run from that smart contract? And it's going to be called balance of. You didn't see us make a balance of on the smart contract, but if you remember, Open Zeppelin has the ERC20 library that has a balance of function built in. It was inherited when we made our account. So we're going to make use of it and calculate what our balance is. So we're going to make use of it there. Next, we need the ABI, which is going to be the Amazon ABI that we imported. And for the params of that function is just a count. So we haven't actually set anything up. We just set up our options. In order to do that, we're going to do is web3 enabled. And within that, we're going to do const response equals Moralis.execute function options. So we're going to use Moralis to run the function and pass in options. So essentially, we're talking to this address, we're running this function, we're using this ABI, and we're passing account as the parameter. Okay, cool. So then what we want to do next is set the balance. And what we're going to get back from the response is actually a hexadecimal. But what we can do to fix that is just response.toString. Okay, cool. So that's the get balance function. All right, so that's the get balance function. And now for another function that's going to be called buy tokens. That's right. It does exactly what it sounds like. This is the actual function itself that's going to let us convert our Ethereum to tokens. All right. So if the user is not authenticated, then what we want to happen is in await authenticate, right? Basically, the user is not logged in, it's going to prompt the user to authenticate. Okay, cool. So now that that is set up, we can actually do the function now. So we can set up a variable called amount, and we can get ethers.bignumber dot from token amount. What we want to do next is decide how much Ethers one Amazon coin costs. So what we can do is go over to our browser again. So we can make this full screen. And what I can do is I have a website ready for you guys that can convert our Ethereum to Wei. And how I decided to convert my Amazon coins is going to be 0.0001. And that's how much Wei it's going to be when you convert it. That's important because smart contracts takes Ethers in Wei. So we're going to do quotes here, put in that long string, and then we can calculate the price by making a variable, called calc price equals amount that mole price. Okay, and this should be Ethers. Awesome. So that looks good to me. And if you didn't know, buy tokens is going to be pretty similar to the get balance, where we're going to set up an options again. Then I'm going to say what address contract I want to use, which should be pretty obvious at this point, Amazon coin address. And the function name, try to guess it before I type, it's going to be mint. Exactly. Good job, Joe. I don't know if Joe's were watching, but if there was a Joe watching, I hope you got scared. So ABI is going to be Amazon ABI. Then we're going to do message value, and then it's going to be calc price. Okay. And then for the params, so remember our require function that we made on the smart contract, this is what message value is. So params is going to be just amount, and we're just going to pass it and then we got amount from token amount. Okay, cool. So that's the options, but we're not done yet. Like I said, this is just setting up the options. Let's actually set up our transaction by storing it in a variable. And that's going to be equal to await.moralis.execute function. Exactly. So we pass in options again to run everything I said in our options. Okay. Then I'm going to make another variable called receipt. All right. And it's going to hit await transaction.wait. Okay. And then I'm going to put 4 here. And when you get 4 here, it's going to wait for 4 blocks to be verified before finishing the transaction. And that's just to ensure that it's more valid, right? Because the way blockchains work, there can be multiple blocks that are discovered, but the longest chain is considered the truth or the real one. You want to ensure that by putting a 4 here. You don't have to, but it's just optional. So I'm going to do set is loading to false. And if you notice, it's false here and initialize as false. But that's because later on, when I move it with my context API, we're going to be setting loading to true elsewhere. Okay. I also just want to console log the receipt just so I can see it get printed when it's done. Then lastly, we can do a set Etherscan link, which is going to be quotes https://rinkeby.etherscan. I'm doing this because I can see in my console a link that I can click on to take me to the actual Etherscan address without me typing it in, which will be pretty handy later on. So again, here's the template literal. We can put receipt.transaction hash, and we can just put a comma. Cool. Awesome. So we got our 2 functions ready. All we need to do now is hop over to our use effect and update it. The use effect that I want to update is this one. So I want to say const account equals await user $.get should be ETH address, I believe. This will get the account, the user's ETH address, and we want to do our set username. Sorry, not our set username. Our set current account actually, and set it to this current account ETH address. Cool. So now we can put current account in there as well. Okay, cool. Very nice. Okay, so that use effect is done. Let's make use of our get balance, and get balance is actually going to go at the top here. So we're going to say get balance. Awesome. That's it for the use effect. We haven't used buy tokens yet because that's something that should be set up on the modal. So coming down below to the value, let's add a couple more things. We can bring the, not get balance, but we can bring the balance and make that global. We can also set token amount, and the token amount, we can talk about amount due and set amount due. We also need to pass in is loading for set is loading so that we can make it true later on. I'll also do set Etherscan link. Not sure if we're going to need that, but we'll just put it in for now. So also Etherscan link. And while we're here, we can also do current account. Awesome. So that looks pretty good. That's all the states that I need to pass for now. And if I forget, I'll come back. But that's it, guys. That's the Amazon context updated now. So let's apply the functionality by building the buy modal component. Cool. All right, guys. So after you pass all of these things into value, it's going to make all of these variables and functions global, like I mentioned previously. What we need to do next is, if you remember, if I go to our header and you look down below, we have this buy modal component that doesn't exist yet. So let's go ahead and make it. And now that I'm realizing it, we don't actually need to pass that down as a prop. So I'm going to take out buy tokens equals buy tokens. So let's create that component. I'm going to go open this up, hit new file, and let's call it buy.js. Okay, and in buy modal.js, let's go ahead and set up our component. And then, as usual, set up all our imports that we'll need. So thinking I'm going to use context, and then we're going to do use effect. Okay. And then from there, I have a couple of, I have a React icon that I would like import, which is just going to be iOS close from react-icons/.io. Awesome. And also, since I imported use context, let's get our context. So there's our Amazon one. And we can also import something from React Spinner. So again, if you go to your package.json, you look for React Spinners, make sure you have it. There's mine. So what I can do now is import hash loader from React Spinners. Okay, and then we can import link right from next link. Okay, awesome. And I know in bimodal, I'm gonna get a close property. So we haven't commented it out yet, so it's not actually passing that prop in yet, but we're setting it up for success in the future. We can set up the variables that we need from context already. So I'll say object equals use context, and you pass in Amazon in there. And in between the curly brackets, I want amount due, set amount due, token amount, set token is loading, set is loading, ether scan link, and set ether scan. That was pretty much everything that I just imported into the context, which is why we set it up earlier. Okay. Another thing I can do while I'm here is make a function called const calculate price. We already did calculate price in our context file, but this calculate price is a function to display the price that we get back on the front end side. So it's going to be const price is equal to parse float token amount, and you can do times 0.0001, and that's supposed to represent how many ethers is converted from how much tokens we want. Okay, then we do price equals price.toFixed for, and we can set the amount due here and put price. Awesome. We add use effect here, so let's actually call it. So I'll say I'll say use effect. This one's gonna be pretty simple. The side effect that I want to run is just to run calculate price every time the bimodal component is loaded. And we don't want this to run every single time. We just want it when the token amount changes. So put that in the dependency module and you're good to go. Beautiful. Next, we can set up our JSX. So first div, it's going to give it a class name of styles.container. Styles.container. Okay. And next we're going to do is loading. All right. So we're going to do some conditional rendering here. And if is loading is true, then we should put in our hash loader. So I'll set up a div here with the class name, something like the loader container. And within those two divs, we can put the hash loader, and you can set the size to whatever you want. I'm thinking 80. And again, if you don't want to use the hash loader, you don't like the animation that I'm using, you can import a different kind of React Spinner if you take a look at the library. So I'm feeling the hash loader today, so let's use that. So let's close off that parenthesis, because if is loading is false, which means nothing is loading, everything's a-okay, we're going to have another fragment here, and we should load, and then if is loading is false, we should load the actual modal itself. Let's do a div with the class name styles.closeX. Okay, and within that div, let's take our icon, self-closing, and it's going to have an on-click of close. So when I click this button, it should close, and this close is coming from something I passed down to bimodal from header. Not only do you want it to close, by the way, you also want to make sure that the states are all cleared out. So I'm going to do that by saying set amount due is empty, set token amount empty, and set ether scan link to empty. There you go. So we cleared it out on close, and still inside this icon, we can set the font size of it to be 50, and the class name, it's not actually going to give it a name. We're just going to give it some styling of cursor dash pointer, so that when I hover over that X, you can see that's nice. Okay, cool. So let's set up another div here, and then we'll do class name styles.title. And in styles.title, we can just say buy more Amazon coins, because we want to promote the use of our tokens at this store here. So buy more Amazon coins here. I think that's a pretty good message. And then from there, we can do class name equal styles.content. And then in that content, we can say select how many tokens would you like to buy. Just instructing the user on how to use the menu, how to use the modal. So next we have another div, which is just going to contain our input field. So I'm going to say div class styles.input. Okay, here, let's insert that input within here, set up its attributes, which is just going to be type text placeholder to indicate that you should put an amount here of how many coins do you want. Now we can give this a actual class name, styles.input box. Okay, there's also going to be an on change in this input field, because every single time I type something, we should be updating the set token amount state.
So it's not Etherscan link. It's going to do something like this. Set token amount to be e.target.value. So that's how you grab the input field, in case you were wondering. And every single time I type something, updates the state with whatever's in my input. That's all that is. So if you do value equals token amount, that looks pretty good. And we're still not done yet. We want to make another div here actually. And to do the class name styles.price, which will show how much is due based on the amount. So that's why I'm going to say total due, curly brackets, and empty. And you can put token amount and token amount. I'm setting up a ternary. So if token amount exists and the token amount is greater than 0, what I want to see is amount due plus ETH, right? So you can see how much ETH. And if there is no token amount, it should just say 0. Makes sense? Cool. So that's the div. Last but not least, it's just a button that's gonna run the function that we want. So I'm gonna format it and add the attributes that we need, which we can start off with its name. So I'm gonna name him by button. Okay, so then there's also this disabled attribute. If there is no token amount, or, so let me space that out, or the token amount is less than 0, then they shouldn't be able to click the button. So that's why I set that condition on the disabled prop. So then on click, we can put is loading to true, right? Because when I press this button, it's gonna take some time for us to call the contract. So what I wanna do is set up our hash loader by setting is loading to true. From there, I wanna buy tokens. And let me just double check if I'm getting, we should also be getting that at the top here. Buy tokens. And in our Amazon context, we should also be passing that in, buy tokens. Cool. So now we're all good. Going back to buy modal, be sure to get it from Amazon context, and so you can use it here. The button, the text we want for that button is just gonna should be easy for people to understand. Cool. So another cool thing that I want is that if there's an Etherscan link, I want it to actually show up in the front end too. So what we can do here is set up more conditional rendering. So it's gonna look something like div with the class name styles.success. Because if it's successful, we would see this Etherscan link. So we'll say transaction successful, check out your receipt for your transaction below. So that's going to be super cool to see later. When I get my coins, I'll see a nice receipt below. Then we can also add another link here. This one's going to have the href of the Etherscan link. So I'll put href, template literal, Etherscan link. But this is still inside that same link. I want to give that person a little name, styles.etherscan. Cool. So within that link, there's going to be an A tag with the class name, also styles.etherscan, target equal underscore blank, close that off, and the link will say transaction receipt. Cool. Then after that link, we can close off that conditional rendering, and which will also finish this one off. And let's see, so link that close, and looks like there's an extra parenthesis here, and that should fix it. Yeah, so that should be the closing parenthesis for that, and the closing parenthesis for this, it can be down there. Cool, so no errors, looks good to me, and that's the bimodal component. All right, cool. So that's the bimodal component. Let's get into the next part, and let's see if it actually works. All right, guys, cool. So like I said, that's the bimodal. One thing that I almost forgot to do was let's add our styles object in here. So I'll say const styles equal object, and let's start writing it out. So for container, it's just gonna be height full, width full, and we'll do a flex property here with flex column. That's it for the container. Okay, so next we're gonna do close div, which is gonna be width full, h50 pixels, flex property here, and then you're gonna do items, center, justify, end, mb-20 pixels. Cool. So that's close X. Let's style the title div, which will just have a text-3xl. Let's give it a bold font. So by doing font bold, give it a flex property with flex, give it a nice flex 1, items-center, then empty-20 pixels. Okay. Then we're going to do a justify-center with an mb-bracket 40 pixels. Awesome. You still with me? Okay. For content, what I'm going to do is flex w-full MB 30 pixels, and that should actually be in brackets. Nice. Okay, after that we can do a text XL and a justify center, and that's contnet. It should be content. Good catch for those of you watching. Thank you for selling me. So input, we're gonna have w-full, and we're gonna do h-full with flex items center, justify center. Okay, next let's add a background color of hashtag F7, F6, and F2, I believe. And we can do like a focus with the outline none. Very nice. Let's do the input box now, which will have width full, height full, give it a flex property, and then we can style it with items-center, justify center. Nice background of hashtag F7, F6, F2. I think it looks pretty good. Then we can do, oh, okay, I think I mixed up this. This is the input box styling. So let me just finish that out real quick. So this is input box. That's the one that makes more sense. This should have the focus outline dash none. The input though should just have a width of 50%, the height of 50 pixels, BG dash hashtag F7, F6, F2. That's what the background it should have. And it should also be rounded, LG, and we can do a P-10 pixels. Then it should have a flex MX dash auto. There you go. That's the styling for input. This is the input box. That looks pretty good. Now we can do price. And price is going to be W full, H full. Don't forget to put colon. And we also want a flex here with items dash center and justify. Oops, not item center. It's just justify center actually. Justify center, then item center, then empty bracket 20 pixels. Give it a nice bold font like this, and then do text dash 3XL. You got that? Cool. Let's do a buy button. And in this buy button, it has a width of 20% and a height of 50 pixels. And let's give it a background hashtag 000 empty dash bracket 40 pixels, rounded dash LG P dash bracket 10 PX. We have flex MX dash auto. Text is white. Yeah, there's actually a lot on this buy button one. Justify center and items dash center and cursor pointer. That was a doozy, but let's do an Alt Z so you can see all of it. All right, can you guys see that? Cool. Love to hear it. There we go. So container. Let's do the loader container. We'll do a W dash full, a H dash 500 PX. We'll have a nice flex, items dash center, and a justify dash center. And there's a lot of CSS that goes into this one. So let's keep it going with the loader. Okay, and actually there should be a loader one. Might have spelled it wrong. Okay, cool. So there's none of that. Next one will be Etherscan then. Etherscan is going to have CSS of W dash H dash flex items dash center, justify dash center, text dash green dash 500, text dash 2XL, empty dash 20 pixels, a nice font that is bold, and a cursor dash pointer as well. Nice. Okay, so let's make that little success div. It's the last one for now, guys. It's going to be W dash H dash full. Let's finish it out. Flex items dash center, justify dash center, text dash XL, empty dash 20 pixels. I keep forgetting the bracket. 20 pixels, and let's do a font bolder. Okay, let's hit save, and there we go. That should be the CSS of the buy modal. So now it's time to actually check if this works. I hit save. I'm going to open up my app, hit refresh for good time's sake. And if I click this guy, nothing happens. Okay, so I'm going to head into, let's go into the header real quick. Oh yeah, we also need to import the buy modal. Duh. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. Import buy modal from buy modal, which now means I can bring this in and bring this in. Okay, awesome. So can I click this now? So I'm hovering over it and I can't click it. But the weird thing is that it should have a cursor pointer to it. Go back to my code real quick. Let's add a margin bottom of 50 pixels. And let's see. So I'm adding margin bottom 50 pixels to my header. I want to do this temporarily because once we add the featured component, the styling of it will look a lot better. But for now, I'm going to put this MB-50 pixels. So there we go. And oh, there we go. Nice. Okay, so we can actually have our cursor pointer. I think it's because of the overlap. What I'll do is click on this. Hey, let's go. That's our modal. Our modal is working beautifully. Now, before I actually test the functionality of buy tokens, what I probably should do is let's update the header. Okay, well, how I want to update the header is to actually use context. So I'll do that right here. Const equals use context and then pass it in. And then what I want to get from Amazon context shouldn't be that much. It should just be balance and get balance function. Cool. And then am I using get balance here actually? No, I'm not. So I think it's just balance I need then, because that should be covered by the use effect. So I'm gonna hit save. And if you remember, the reason why I see 99 over here is because of the hard coded balance. If I'm gonna get it from my context, we don't need the hard-coded balance anymore. Okay, so if I save, there we go. It's going to be 0 AC, but when I buy tokens, it's going to update with how many tokens I have. So let me do that. Cool. So now, like I said, it's 0 AC, but when I actually buy Amazon coins, it's going to update. One quick thing though, if you look at your MetaMask, you should check if you have if you have any Ethereum, because that's what you're going to use to get Amazon coins. And I'm not using real Ethereum that I bought. Make sure you're on the Rinkeby testnet. Okay. So in this section, I'm going to be showing you guys how to get Ethereum on the testnet. So what you're going to do is open a new tab, put in this link, faucets.chain.link/Rinkeby. And here you can put in your wallet address. So one cool way to do it is by connecting your wallet. So I'm going to go here and that should ask me to connect my wallet actually. Okay, so this is on faucets.chain.link/Rinkeby. This is where we're going to be getting some test Ethereum for us to play with. As a developer, we can connect our wallet. I'm using MetaMask, and make sure you're in the account that you want to have ETH for, which I'm connected with account 2. So let's use that. Okay, so now it's there. I don't need test link. I just need 0.1 ETH. There you go. Waiting for confirmation. So anytime you're developing on the testnet, this is how you can get your test Ethereum. You're going to do this a couple of times in the faucet. So I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to say send request, initiating, waiting for confirmation. And it usually takes a while because the Rinkeby network is just a little slow. Okay, close. Let me just double check how much ETH I have now. There you go. See, you can see 0.2 ETH. I'm going to do this until I have about, let's say 7. So I'm just going to cycle this through. Okay, keep it going. Okay, I'm not close to 5 yet. 4, you know what? Let's just do one more to get to 5. And that should be good for now. Okay, request complete. So I did this a couple of times. Now let's look, I have 0.5 Ethereum. Now I can start playing. Anytime you need ETH, go ahead to this website. Now I'm going to go back to my app. Oh yeah, there was a change. Let me just refresh this. Awesome. And again, it should say 0 Amazon coins because I didn't buy tokens yet. So let's give it a try now. So I'm going to click this. How many tokens would I like? I'm going to get, let's get 10 tokens, right? And the cost of these 10 tokens is going to be 0.0010 ETH. So we have plenty. So let's go ahead and hit. And there it is. Loader container is not defined. That is awesome. Yeah, usually this doesn't work the first try. Why didn't you guys tell me any sooner? Loader container is in the bimodal.js then. And the loader container here. Loader container. It's going to be styles.loader container. Yep, we're good to go. Let me hit save. Okay, that's a new one. Error occurred in bimodal. Let's just go back to localhost. Okay, let's try this again. So just in case, I'm going to log out, connect my wallet again, sign, I'm in. Cool. Click the modal and let's try it. Let's get 10 coins. Let's buy. Okay, cool. Cannot estimate gas transaction, may fail. Let's see. Okay. So I saw the loading screen, which is a good thing, but then we ran into this. So I don't know if you guys saw, but we got that weird error. All I did so far was redeploy my smart contract. And when I deployed my smart contract, I got a new address and I'm using this now. And when you get a new smart contract address, make sure to recopy your Amazon coin.json. And now it should work, but I did want to fix up a couple of things. I was looking over the code and there actually should be a / here in line 117 for me. So I'm going to save that. Another thing I wanted to do is I wanted to make sure my balance is working. So what I'm going to do is put get balance here. And if I put it there, I should move it up to the top. So I'm going to get my balance. Oops. Copy that. Cut it. So let me grab it again. Cut it. Save. And I'll just put it atop above the use effect. Hit save. There we go. So now let's see if this works. So moment of truth. What I'm going to do is refresh this one more time. Make sure everything is running. Cool. So if I click this, bimodal works. If let's say I'll get 10. Hey, let's go. Awesome. So yeah, the debugging that took me a while, but that's all part of being a developer. If you see a MetaMask notification, that's a good sign. So if you look, we are sending this many ETH to it, and it should mint us the right amount of tokens. So let's confirm. Okay, and sometimes this takes a while to load, mainly because, again, we're communicating with the blockchain, and it's not as fast just yet, but in the future, hopefully this gets a lot faster. So now we wait. Let's go. So if you look, you can see transaction successful. Check out your receipt for your transaction below. So I'm going to click on that. So there you go. Proof that program is talking to the smart contract. As you can see right here, that's the address, and you can see from me. Awesome. So if we go back to our app now, I hit X, there it is. That's our actual balance. It's there and recorded. This is awesome. I'm super glad about it. Thank God. So now we can move on to the next part. All right, so now that we finally can exchange our Ether for coins, let's go ahead and make it so that we can buy our beautiful assets that we have here. Don't you want to buy this Doodles or this Infinidoge? That would be sick. So let's go ahead and do that by going into our context file once again. One thing that we're going to need to do is we need to query for the users when we're gonna buy assets. Because eventually, when I buy an asset, I wanna save it and attach it to that user. Because if you log in, you should see all the assets you bought. If my friend Kevin logs in, he should see all the assets that he bought. Cool, so let's get set up. Remember before when we were querying for assets, we're gonna do something similar. So I'm gonna do const equals use Moralis query, right? These hooks are super powerful, so let's make use of them. So I'm gonna say underscore user because that's the class name. And inside this object here where we're destructuring it, we can call the data user data. We're gonna use that later on. Later, also we can get error from here while we're at it, user data error. And then we can also do is loading. Cool, so we're gonna be using this in the use effect as well, but we're not gonna worry about that now. So I'm gonna save this and now come down below and we can just put it right here, it doesn't matter. All right, so like I said, this function, it's not by tokens, it's const by asset so that we can buy our digital assets on our marketplace. So I'm going to do by asset equals asynchronous. And if it's asynchronous, we usually do a try catch here. And I like to set up the catch because it's super easy. So I'm just going to do console.log error. Cool. So that's the by asset. From here, this is the fun part. If the user is not authenticated or if is authenticated is false, just return because they shouldn't be able to buy anything that they see here. And then from here, we're going to set up our options again. So const options equals type, and you can put here ERC20, and then we can do amount as price. And if you're wondering where price is coming from, it's going to be a parameter that we're going to pass in on our card component as well as the asset itself. So go ahead and pass price in, and then for receiver, just type it out like that and do an Amazon coin address. So we're going to pull our smart contract address for the receiver, and the contract address going to be Amazon coin. Okay, so we're essentially giving the Amazon coins that we have and sending it to the smart contract to purchase our asset. So if that makes sense to you, let's get to the next part. Let's do let transaction again and set that equal to an await Moralis.transfer. We're going to transfer our coins in there and pass in the options. From there, let's do another const receipt equals await transaction.wait. And we can also do if receipt, right? If we get back a receipt, we're going to do a const res equals user data. And remember, user data is what we queried, bracket 0. So when you do bracket 0, that's going to be the one that's currently logged in. And I'm going to do a dot add because when I do a dot add, I'm going to add a trait to this, or remember like how we added a nickname to that user? We can add another column by doing owned assets. So now we're starting to store the assets that we buy to our user. Okay, so I'm gonna do a comma, curly brackets, because the next thing we wanna do is dot, 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 so which is gonna store all the information of that asset. We're gonna put purchase date, so we can know when we bought it, which would be really nice. And we can just do a date dot now. And then, and then in the next line, we're gonna have an ether scan link so that when we look at the object of the user, see the transaction receipt, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to do https://rinkeby.etherscan.io/tx. And don't forget the / like I did last time. And I'm going to do the template literal here. Just pass in the receipt.transaction hash. Cool. All right, we're not done just yet, but after the if state, we want to do an await res.save, because if you remember when we added a nickname, we did a user.save. So this time we're going to save us adding the own asset to Moralis. And then from there, we want to do a dot then, because after we save it, right, we got to indicate the user that they bought it. So we can just do this alert. Feel free to upgrade to something else. Maybe you guys can make a pop-up, which would be cool, pretty cool. But I'm just going to do an alert for now. So I'm going to successfully purchased this asset. Let's go. All right, cool. So now that we have that, we can hit save. And if we have the buy asset function, let's go ahead and bring it down to our provider so we can make it global. All right, let's type in buy asset. So if you guys can take a guess, where are we going to call this buy asset function? That's right, exactly in our card.js. So we need to be pulling from our context. So let's make use of this hook right here. So coming down below in line 15 for me, I'm going to do a const curly bracket equals use context. All right, so put parentheses here, pass in Amazon, and just add what you need, which is literally just the buy asset function. And again, make sure it's the same spelling by asset. Okay, now all I gotta do is add an on click, and I wanna actually do this in the container. So what I'm gonna do is make some room in the opening tag. We can actually format it like so. And then we can do an on click equals something like this and do a by asset. And it takes two parameters, which is the item's price and just the information about the item, and we're passing it in as asset. Okay, so let's hit save. Okay, and now if we go back to our app, I'm just gonna hit refresh, and we have 10 coins to play with. So let's go ahead and buy something. Let's go ahead and get Taste the Rainbow. Oh, look at that. So if we click on the asset, we have the Metamask notification asking us to sign if we want to transfer our Amazon coins for that asset. Okay, so let's go ahead and hit confirm. Okay, now we just gotta wait for the transaction to process. Let's see, did it take my money? Okay, send token. Oops, I must have accidentally clicked on it again. And let's just double check on our Moralis database on user. And this is the one for Lance. Let's see. Oh, should I hit refresh? Yeah, so I didn't see my alert, which tells me that something didn't quite go. So I'm gonna go back into my Amazon context, and it looks like most of it's going through. So let's just console log here, waiting for, because if all that's good, we should have saw that alert. So I'm just gonna do another console log here, success. And we should probably spell it. Let's go, saving that. And now let's go back to here. So let's click RoboCat, and let's see if we can buy RoboCat now. Okay, so this is a good sign. We're getting the signature request. We can hit confirm. So it looks like it went through because I can see that I had 10 and now I have 6, which means I bought 2 things. So that tells me that the Amazon app is working. Let's freaking go, guys. So with that, this is super cool and all, but we're almost done with the app. So if you're still watching this, please leave a comment down below. Let's leave a comment. Let's this time, if you say something like doodles in the comments, I know that you made it this far and you're able to get this working. Oops, and I clicked doodles, so it makes me want to buy it. Cool. So if you say doodles down below, I know you're still watching and you're crushing it so far. So let's go into the next part, because we can take this a step further by having a transaction history page. Imagine that you buy all these assets and you can see, if you click this page, the list of things that you bought. So that would be super cool. So let's set that up in the next part. So I just quickly cleaned up my VS Code and put our nice app on the side again. What I want to do is create the features component. All right, if you remember features component, if you go look for it in the header, I believe. Nope, not the header. Actually, it is the main. There we go. So in main.js, there's this featured component that we haven't made yet. Let's go ahead and finally do one of the last components. So I'm going to do featured.js. There we go. I'm just going to do that real quick. There we go, featured. So the idea with featured in this Amazon build is that there's these really cool assets above, underneath new release. And that should fix our problem with the header. So if you remember, I had this temporarily with the MB, the margin bottom with 15 pixels. So we might not need that anymore. So I'm gonna hit save, and it's overlapping a bit, but once we add this featured component, it should look a lot better. So what I'm gonna do is back in main, we can comment this bad boy out. So let's go ahead and import it using this auto import and close it off. Cool, so now we have featured in there. As you can see, it just doesn't have any styling yet. So let's set up the JSX, and to set up the JSX, let's go to line 5 recording. Okay, line 5 for me, and I'm setting it up like this. And for the most outer div, the convention is the same. It's just gonna be styles.container, okay? And then within that, we're gonna have another div that's just gonna be the title. So this one is styles.title, okay? Within there, we can write top assets, and underneath top assets, we'll have a couple cards here. So if I do styles.cards, we're gonna have about 4, and they're gonna be really cool because I'm gonna actually get these videos that are gonna be constantly playing. So to get it set up, in the cards div, we're gonna do a div. We're gonna have a class name equals styles.card1. Like I said, there's gonna be about 4 of these. So the styling for them is gonna be pretty much, so inside this div, card1, type in another one. And for the name of this one, I'm thinking, let's call it styles.cardcross. Nice. Okay, and then in the cards cross, I've already prepared, it's gonna be this nice video tag. And I didn't mean to press save, that's why we're getting an error, because there's no style object yet. But what you should see, HTML has this tag called video, which just lets us play, okay? And if you look in the video tag, I have something called autoplay, loop, muted, and controls equals this with this class name, object cover. And this source file right here, if I do an Alt-C, so you can see it better, is gonna link us to one of the MP4s that I have prepared. So There you go. Now, like I said, the styling for these are going to be pretty similar, but so I'm just going to copy this about 3 more times. Okay. Now, what you got to keep an eye on is for the class names, they're all slightly different. This is card 2, card 3, and card 4. Just keep it different. And the videos are actually different as well. So just added all the source files that we need. And that is the last video right here. As you can see, they're all slightly different. And again, you don't have to put these actual videos. I'm encouraging you guys to actually make this your own, right? You can use this project as a template to make your own NFT marketplace and have your own tokens for you to build. So highly encourage that and keep that in mind. What I want to do next is let's set up that styles object. So I'm going to do const styles equals, and there's a lot of styling on this, but once you get the pattern, you can reuse it over and over again. So not constrainer, we want to do container, not continue, container. And for the value, we're just going to give it h400 pixels. That's the height. We can do a width and give it a flex property of p dash bracket 20 pixels. Do a flex dash column. So after the container, what I'm going to do next is get the title div, and the title div is going to have text dash 2xl font bolder. Right. From there, we can add a margin bottom of 20 pixels, margin top of bracket 30 pixels, and margin bottom of 24, and an ML of dash 40 pixels. So that's going to be it for the title. Add a comma here, and then we can start working on the cards div, which is going to be an h full, a width full, flex gap of 100 pixels, and let's put that bracket in there. So that's the gap. Let's add a justify between MB-30 pixels and an ML of 30 pixels as well. Nice. Okay, so that's the cards. Then we want to do and style each card. And to style each card itself, hold on. And when I'm styling each card, it's actually going to have the same styling. So what we can do is do an H-130 pixels with a width of, let's see, 400 pixels. Then we can add P-20 rounded dash 3XL and a background, BG dash gradient of 1. Okay, from there, we're going to add a from bracket hashtag 0D141C. All right, that looks good. And then now we add another 2, hashtag 42667E. And we're going to do a relative cursor dash pointer. So there's relative and then there's cursor pointer. And then we want to transition dash all and duration for that to be 300. Hold on. And we can do a hover scale 105. Okay, I know this is a big one. So if we do that, let's add a hover shadow as well as a scale, right? To be dash XL. Let's make it a border 2 and a border color of of hashtag FB97. And that's card 1. But guess what? Card 2, 3, and 4 is about the same. So I'm just going to insert it like this, and I can change it. All right, but I'm setting it up this way because if you did want to give them all different stylings, you could. So if I hit save, we got a style in card cross. And that reminds me, you actually have to make the card cross styling. Okay, and you have to make the card cross styling, but I'll tell you now, it's not as bad as the last one. So this one is just going to be H dash bracket 180 pixels. The width can be 125 pixels. Rounded dash 3XL, and just do an absolute here with a bottom dash bracket 20 pixels, transition dash all with a duration of dash 300. Still with me? Do a hover colon scale and make it 105. Give it a flex property and then overflow hidden. There we go. So that's it. That's the styling for the feature.js. If I hit save now, we have another style thing for a card cross. Oh, I did fix that. Let's go ahead and refresh. Oh, I see, because there's a multiple card crosses. That makes sense. So I'm going to fix out all of the card crosses. That's the one I copied. Yep, so double check your divs. And I don't think there's any more card crosses that need an S, so I'm just going to hit refresh. Ooh, look at that. Nice. Okay, so it's almost there. You can see the videos are loaded. I just need to add a nice card color. You can see the videos now, and it looks sick, but the background should be there. So I'm looking to see any typos. Okay, yeah, I always confuse this. It should be an L instead of a 1. It looks so I'm going to take out all the 1s and put in an L. And I believe I had this as a $sign. It should be a hashtag for each of them. So if I hit save now, let's go full screen. Let's go. Look at this. Isn't this beautiful? we have our own marketplace with these amazing videos on the top. So like I said earlier, we're gonna take this one step further. We have one more page. We're gonna do the transaction history and then we'll be done. So let's put it 100% into this last part and I'll see you guys there. And then we have another one for 2. Real quick, there's only like little things we need to add on top besides the transaction page. So one thing I want to improve is going into our Moralis DB again. I want to create a column, and this will actually be the owned assets. It didn't show up before, but we can make it show up by doing something like this, by just adding a new column, and it's a string, and we'll call it owned assets. Okay, I'm just going to add a column. Cool. So now, if you remember our by tokens in our context, so let's do by, oops, that's not what I want. Let's do by asset. And then we had this owned asset here. Let's just make that column. And I think, yeah, let's add an S there too. So I'm going to add an S to this, owned assets. So hit that. And another thing that I'm realizing too, this should actually be inside of the if statement. That's probably why we didn't see it earlier. So I'm going to put it down below here because now res is defined. Cool. All right. I'm gonna hit save. And now I want to add another state since we're already in the context. And then if we do recent transactions, we also do want to set recent transactions. All right. Okay. From there, just set it equal to the use state, and the initial state can be an empty array. Okay. So after you set up the state for recent transactions, come down below to the rest of our functions, and we're going to make one called listen to updates. One cool thing about Moralis, they actually have WebSockets that you can connect to and subscribe so that anytime there is a change there, it will automatically update. So we're going to take advantage of that and do a const listen to updates function. It's going to equal an asynchronous function. And you guys know if we write it like this, we're going to have a let query variable. And in that query, we can say new Moralis.query. And in here, I'm going to put ETH transactions. Okay, let's set up the WebSocket by making a variable called subscription and set that equal to our query dot subscribe. Awesome. Okay, and then to turn it on, we'll say subscription on and put parentheses and in quotes put update, because every time there is an update, I want to pass in the object and do a console log new transaction so that I can see console log the object that we get back, and then we want to set the recent transaction to that object. And like if you remember the initial state, it was an array. So let's also make that object an array as well. Cool. So after we do that, let's scroll all the way to the bottom and let's add recent transactions to that list. And if you remember in main, we had this style that we never really used. So now we can finally set that up. So what we need to do first is utilize our context. So coming down here, I'm going to say, and also, this is bothering me. This just needs to be down here. And let's utilize our context by saying recent transactions. Okay. Equals use context, pass in the Amazon context. All right. From there, underneath cards, let's set some conditional rendering and get the rest of this JSX done. So recent transactions.length, if it's greater than 0, then if recent transactions.length is greater than 0, and add this and symbol here, we're going to add an H1. Okay, so this H1 is going to have a class name of that styles.recent transaction, or recent title, sorry. And then from in between, we can put recent transactions or transaction. Cool. Then we're going to add another curly bracket here for recent transactions again. So if it exists, we want to do a recent transaction dot map transaction here. And we also want to pass in an index so that we can use it as the key. And I actually need to format this properly. There we go. All right, and then make the arrow function, because for each transaction, I want to return this set of JSX. So I'm going to do a div. Let's do a closing div for it. And then within that div, do a key equals index. Because if we put an index from the map, all it's going to do is count from 0 onwards. So for every transaction, it's going to go 0. This div has a key of 1. This div has a key of 2. Cool. So then from there, we can do a class name equals styles.recent transaction list. That's the last one that we needed. Now for this part, the inner div that we have here, it's going to be the class name of styles.transaction card. Okay. See, I think I spelled this wrong. Transaction card. There we go. No more squiggly. And within that div, we have a couple of p tags that I would like to write. We're going to have the transaction.attributes, and we get the from address here. So we can see who it's from. And then we have another one for 2 with the same thing, except instead of the from address, we're going to get the to address. It's going to be one more p tag here. That one's going to have a hash. Okay. And then underneath that hash, we'll have an a tag. And for the attributes of the a tag, we'll have, which is underscore blank. The real equals no opener, no refer. And then we have an href here, which is the actual link itself, which is going to be https://rinkeby.etherscan actually .io/tx/ same thing as before, except instead in this template literal, we're going to have a transaction again here. Transaction.attributes and get that hash, which will lead to the Etherscan link. Okay. And in between, we'll have the nice transaction hash again. So we do transaction.attributes.hash once more, but this time I'm going to format it with a slice and just do 0 to 10. Then over here in line 41 for me, I'm going to have another p tag. It's going to say gas transaction.attribute.gas. Okay. I'll hit save now. Let's take a look at my app. Any issues on this? Cool. And I just want to make sure console log recent transactions because it shouldn't be anything right now, but let's make a purchase and see if all the updates we added are in there. So again, it's 0. That makes sense. Man, I'm actually really admiring the project we made today. Super proud of all the work that went into it. Yeah, so let's test this out. So I'm going to hit refresh one more time. And now let's see if it all works out. So I want a skull. Okay, we got the MetaMask notification loading in. This one's for the skull. Confirm. Oh, look at that. Confirm transaction. 6 transactions confirmed. Okay, that's not it. Should be in user. Let's see. Anything update here? My coins didn't go down. Let's just give it a second maybe. What I do want to see is the recent transaction. So I did some testing. It looks like recent transactions isn't showing up. Also, I got an error that it was expecting an array. So that tells me if we go into our Moralis database that this was originally searching for a string. So I'm just going to delete a column. Let's just do remove. And what I want to show you is how to fix it is by adding a new column. And we put this as string before, but this actually should be an array, not a pointer. So now it's an array. So then we can make it owned assets. So let's add that as a column. So instead of expecting a string, I'll expect that. And the next thing I want to fix is when I was looking at my context, one thing was interesting. We never actually called listen to updates is something that should happen in our use effect. So I'm going to come up to this use effect right here and underneath get balance, I'm going to do an await listen to updates. So now when I call it, this should work. So let's do this. And yeah, my last transaction went through, but it didn't get stored. So I got scammed. I lost money on my own marketplace. But now to prevent that issue on your code, we fixed it up. So this should work now. So let's go ahead and try it. So let's get this brick. Okay, so let's go confirm. And what we can do next is inspect. And again, these transactions usually take some time. Oh, finally, we can finally see that alert. You successfully purchased this asset. Okay, we got running. Yep, and that's our receipt. We saw the array. See if recent transactions is here. Okay, so no recent transactions yet, but let's check our database again for owned assets. We finally saw the alert message, which that's a good sign. Hey, look at that. So underneath this account for Lance, I actually was able to buy a skull. So now we can store any of the user's purchases, which is a good sign. My next goal is to get this recent transactions working. It looks like we didn't get our recent transaction yet, and I'm still seeing this enable Web3 error. So let me think. I think I might have an idea of how it works. So let's go back to our Amazon context. And just like we did with get balance, maybe we should add a listen to updates here. Okay. And I'm gonna hit save. I gotta put listen to updates at the top above the use effect so that it can run. So let's go up to here. I see we have get balance. I'm also gonna put this above that. So I'm gonna hit save. All right, cool. So we only have 2 tokens left. I'm gonna go ahead and get a couple more. I should still have some ETH. I'm gonna go buy. Okay, hit confirm. There we go. It's finally loaded. Oops, open up the console. And there we go. Now we're rich. We can go get more tokens. So let's see. One thing I want to do actually is let's look at listen to updates again. Oh, wait, no, that's at the top now. And let's do console log just to know it's running. All right, just to know it's listening. And so I already have a console log for running. Let's do listening because that's more accurate. I'm gonna do a refresh here. Okay, so it looks like we got 12 coins. Now that we are rich, let's get another NFT or digital asset. Let's get the Nokia this time, and hopefully we can see our recent transaction. So clicked on the Nokia, let MetaMask do its thing. Finally loaded. So now let's go and hit confirm. Let's claim my beautiful Nokia and let's see if I can see it. So there we go. Okay, transaction confirmed. There's my alert. That's a good sign. Hit OK, and now I hit X. All right, so after we hit save, what I want to do next is I'm realizing that if we double check the owned assets in the Moralis DB, what we want to do is delete that because it shouldn't be a string. It should actually be a column. So let's go ahead and delete a column and select owned assets. Okay, so I'm going to remove a column. And then I'm going to add a new column. And remember, I put this as a string by default. Let's make it an array, owned assets. And that's probably why we don't see any of the assets that we buy being saved to the user, because it should be an array. So I want to add a column, owned assets. There we go. And again, if you name it owned assets, you got to double check in the card or in the Amazon context where we make the buy assets function. Let's see. So let's see, buy assets. And if I put in the between ticks, I put an S here just to make sure that it matches with the column. So we should be good to go. So once that's done, I'm going to head back to featured, to main. And now all that's left is to just try and see if everything works, fingers crossed. So let's give it a try. All right, so I'm going to head over to my page. And also I'm just going to zoom out because when the CSS comes, my laptop's pretty small. Oops, cut that part out. So I'm going to give this a try where we can see the recent transaction. So I'm going to hit refresh. Cool. So I'm logged in, I have 4 coins. Let's go ahead and buy a skull. This whole time we were buying assets and nothing was getting saved. But now that we updated that, we should see it in our DB and we should see a nice recent transaction at the bottom. So I'm gonna go ahead and click this. Hey, we got the Metamask notification to sign in. That's always a good sign. All right, I'm just gonna let it load for a bit. And remember, this is just to transfer tokens, right? We're taking how many Amazon coins we have and sending it to the smart contract, then taking a record of the asset that we bought. So I'm gonna hit find spec element. Let's take a look at any console logs I'm running. Ooh, okay. So if you see that parse object, that is coming from the recent transactions. WebSocket to Moralis failed. Oops. Okay, there we go. My internet went out a bit, but you successfully purchased this asset. They stole my money, but in return, I get my beautiful digital asset. Let's see if I can prove it by refreshing. Hey, look at that. So I'm logged in as Lance, and if you look in the owned assets, I have the skull in there. So that's awesome, guys. We have that working, but the thing that I really care about is at the below. Let's see if it's there. Hey, we got recent transactions. So this is becoming more and more like a marketplace. I'm encourage you guys to take this code and make it your own, because you don't have to make Amazon and follow along. You can make your own unique marketplace, put in your own assets, set up your own smart contract with your unique tokens or coins, and deploy it and put that in your portfolio, because that is killer. So with that said, this is all pretty cool, but what if we take it one more step further? What if I click this transaction history and you could see all the assets that user bought? So I think that would be pretty cool. So let's work on that. All right, guys, one thing before we get started in the next part, I'm working on a laptop, so the screen is a little small. So if you notice that your recent transaction is smushed, just go up 1 and zoom out a little bit, and there you go, nice and clean. So if you're working on a bigger screen, it might just look a little bit different, but other than that, this is the Amazon page. So next thing I want to do is let's finally finish that Amazon context. There's only one more function, I believe, that we need to add. So let's go ahead and do that. So to finish our Amazon context, I'm going to make another state here. And let's clean this up a bit. There we go. You guys can see that? Cool. Oops, that's too zoomed in for me. So at the top here, I'm going to say const bracket owned items. And then we're going to do a set owned items. Okay. You can set that to a use state, and we'll initialize it with an empty array. And like I said, we have one more function to do, and that last function is going to be get owned assets. So I'm going to find everything down here, and I can just squeeze it in at line 182 for me. So on line 182, I'm going to write get owned assets and make sure it's asynchronous, just like everything else. Make it an error function, and let's add that try catch. And for the catch, it's just going to be error and then console log error. Okay, so console.log error. Cool. Now, what's important is in this try block, to get the owned assets, I'm going to make use of the user data that we queried. So if I do an if user data, oops, I'm just ensuring that we are querying the user, and once it is there, I'm going to go check if we are logged in by doing bracket 0, because bracket 0 contains the currently logged in account. So
if I do that condition inside the if statement, I can make use of the set owned items. And the cool thing about states is you can have access to the previous items by saying prev items. And this can be named everything. You don't have to say prev items. This could be called previous. This could be called whatever you want. So I'm going to do previous items and an arrow function here. And what you can do is do a dot, dot, dot using the spread operator to get the previous items, and then comma user data bracket 0 dot attributes dot owned assets. Right, remember, make sure it has the S because that should match up the column on our database. Let's see what's going on. Declaration expected. Oh, I don't want, this doesn't need to be here. This actually should be the array because owned items is an array. Okay, take this out. There we go. So basically what's happening here is if I didn't use the spread operator here to deconstruct the prev items, then I'm just replacing my owned items with the latest one. You don't want to do that. You want to add it on top of it. So that's why we're setting up this way. Other than that's the function. So can you guys guess where I'm going to use this function? Exactly. That's going to be in the use effect. So where we're in the use effect, where we're getting the assets, we should also be getting owned items. So at the top here, I'm going to say get owned assets and make sure you add in the wait before it. Cool. I'm going to hit save. And once that's done, let's add it to our provider to make it global. And then we can access it for our final component. So I'm going to add owned items. Make sure you add a comma here. What we do is just add get owned items. And we actually don't need the function here because it's already being used in the use effect. So I'm going to hit save. And guys, guess what? We finished the Amazon context. All right, guys, like I said, let's make an awesome transaction history page. And to do that, we're going to have to go and create the page file. So I'm going to go open it up pages. And within here, I'm just going to say new file. And then we can say history.js. Awesome. So we have history.js. We can set it up similar to a component like so. And let's make this a little bit bigger. Cool. So what I want to do next is let's import anything we're going to need for this page, which is just going to be our use context. Because remember earlier we set up owned items. We're going to be using it here pretty soon. We got use context. Let's import the sidebar because if you're thinking about it, the history page should still contain the sidebar. So I'm going to do a sidebar from ... /components /sidebar. Okay, import the header as well because that also should still be there. Components / two M's header. Okay, so from here, don't want to add a comma there actually. And then we can also get our context. So I'm going to say Amazon context, boom. That's all the imports, I believe, besides a component that we're going to create later on. So let's go ahead and use our context. I'm going to say object equals use context, pass in Amazon, and all we're pulling for history page is owned items. Cool. All right. From here, I'm going to go set up the JSX now. It's pretty minimal compared to what we were doing earlier, guys. Clean it up and just do a class name equals styles.container. All right. So the cool part is we can just implement the sidebar here already. And then in that next div, we're going to make a main div. So I'll say div class name styles.main. In that main, we're also going to have the component. And in the very next line, let's add up a table container. And similar to how we have the cards on the main component, I want to make essentially a container that has all the recent transactions. So to set that up, I'm going to make a div called table container, styles.table container, which in turn is going to have the owned items. All right, so that means we're going to do a little conditional rendering. So if owned items exist, if that user has owned items tied to their account, we can do a div class name and say styles.page_title. .page. And don't forget to close it, guys. So I'm going to close it like this. Keep it in the same line. And if there is owned items, this page will list out some text that says purchase history. Cool. So now we're going to set up the other condition where if I put a div here, let's see, opening. So if owned items doesn't exist, then we can have a text field that says no purchase history. Okay. And this is actually going to have the same title, page title. Close the div. And exactly what I said earlier, no purchase history. So let's see. Let's take out that extra parenthesis there. And if I do Control B, now you guys can see it a lot better. So this is what we have. We have the container div, the sidebar, the main, the table container, and our titles. Cool. One thing I'll do next is underneath here, let's make a div for the actual transactions that we had. So it's going to be class name styles.transactions, and we're going to have owned items. All right, this is exactly where we're going to map through each item. And for every item, I want to create a transaction component. It's going to be similar to like the card component. You could look at it like that. So I'm passing in two parameters, item and index, because if you guys didn't know, in the map function, there's a second parameter that you can name. I usually name index, where it goes from 0 to 1. So if I create a new component, that will have a key of 0. If I create another component, that will have a key of 1. So that's why we use it here, because whenever you're rendering props with React, they should have a unique key. So I'm not going to forget the return statement this time, and let's do return. And this component doesn't exist, but it's going to be transaction. Okay, cool. So I'm not going to hit save, because if I do, I'm going to get a whole bunch of errors. My computer is going to be mad, but let's make them happy by making the styles object. So at the top here, let's set it up. So I'm going to write const styles equals that object, and we'll say container, and let's give the height, make it full. We can also make the width full as well. Give it a flex property, and this is the background color that I want to use. It's pretty much the same. It's going to be hashtag FFF. Okay, and that's it for the container. And then for the main, what we could do is give it a width full as well, and also a full height with flex. The flex property you want to add to this is flex column with empty-50 pixels. All right, and then from there we can do the table container, which is going to have the full width, full height, flex. It's also flex column, and let's give it a P of 100 pixels and just a nice justify dash center. All right, then we can do page title, which is simply just going to have text L, font dash bold, text dash left, empty bracket 50 pixels. And let's also add a margin bottom of 30 pixels. Cool. Last one is just going to be the transactions div, which will have a flex and give it a gap of 50 pixels. We can do flex dash row, flex dash wrap, and add a comma here. Cool. What I'm going to do next is comment out line 32 for now, because we know that transaction component doesn't exist, and let's build out that transaction component next. This is going to be our final component, guys. Are you excited? Let's get started. So I'm gonna hit save, and there we go. All right, guys, so now that we made the history page, there's only one more component left, and if you look down here, it's the transaction. So I'm gonna go into components, make a new file, and let's call it transaction.js. Cool. So now I can do Control B, and now I can see a little bit more clearly. So let's go ahead and import anything we might need. But first I'm going to set up the component. And the only thing that we're going to need here in terms of hooks is just use context, just like usual. Awesome. So we got use context. Let's also import link, and it's still doing this thing right here. So I'm going to fix it up. So we got link, and we also need image from next. All right. So we grabbed the image from next and link. Next up, we're going to be using moment to format the dates so it can look really pretty once it's on there. So import moment from moment. We installed a lot of packages earlier. Double check your package.json if you have it. Next, let's get our context. So I'm going to say import Amazon context, and there we go. So for the history.js, I'm going to step back into here for a second. The things that I want to pass in are a key, and we'll make use of that index parameter I set up. And we're going to pass an item as a prop. So if we're passing that as a prop, we can go ahead in our transaction component and destructure that here. So I'm going to say item, and I'm going to console log that later to show you guys what we need to do for that. But for now, let's see, I'll save this, and let's also save this. Okay, it's going to refresh real quick. All right, we also have to import transactions, import transaction from the component. There we go. And we're not going to see any transaction components because there isn't any owned items just yet. So it looks like our transactions aren't showing up. So let's try to make it some more consistent. So to make it more consistent, what I want to do is do an owned items and, right? Because if it exists, then we should be mapping through it. And then in our Amazon context, let's see. Let's go to our function, and I'm console logging here, and sometimes it doesn't show up. It says it's undefined because I think it's because we're trying to set the state before it even exists. So just to make sure, what I want to do is user data bracket 0 dot attribute dot owned assets here, because we only want to set the state if that exists. So if I save that here, okay, there we go. Now this should be a little bit more consistent. And one more thing I need to do is just temporarily, I'm console logging the item, but I'm going to map through it because item, if you saw the console log, is just an array that contains the owned asset. So we actually have to map through it. So I'll make empty fragment here because there's no real parent div. And let's just do an item dot map. And for every asset, also let's make use of the index. And let's see, for every asset, let's just return an h1. And all this h1 is going to have is just the asset name, just to see if it's there. So asset name is what it should be. So I'm gonna hit save. Let's make this guy a little bigger. or rather even full screen it so we can see it a lot better. And now if I hit transaction history, there it is. There's the skull. So we can finally see it over there. I want to make sure we can see all of it. So let's add a RoboCat to the list. And then if I buy this, it should be updating our transaction. It's just taking a while to load. Awesome. I hit confirm. And I can also check this on my Moralis DB. I'll hit refresh on that. And oh yeah, because I didn't get the transaction complete. There you go. And you also got the notification on the dashboard, which is pretty cool. You saw that, guys? It's updated. So let's refresh. And we got the alert here. Now it's purchased. And now I'm broke. I don't have any more Amazon, but we'll get more in a bit. So let's see, if I hit refresh now, we go to owned asset. I should have skull and RoboCat. Let's go. So we have two things there. And now what we should see in transaction history is skull and RoboCat. Let's see, update, let's hit refresh. And sometimes it takes a second to load, but now I'm not seeing new release. There it is, there's skull and RoboCat. So let's finish out the transaction now. All right, guys, so after a bit of testing, one thing I realized is we should move this promise around where instead of get owned assets we call first, we're going to do await get owned assets after this. Okay, so let's save that. Cool. And as you can see, we can still see our skull and RoboDog. Let's go ahead and finish out the front end. So I'm going to go back to transaction.js, and we should also be using our context. So what I'm going to do is come to the top here. We don't need this console log anymore. So instead we can do const, and let me make this bigger for you guys. Cool. We can do const username from use context and pass in Amazon. All right, we're doing this because later on, I want to be able to have that transaction history just like you see in the real Amazon of all the assets we bought. So there we go. We started it off right over here, but the next thing, instead of just this H1, we should get the rest of the JSX in. So we're going to do div, right? This one will have our class name of container. And let's also put in the key in here for index, make use of that. And from there, let's do another div inside of that. And this one will be styles.top, styles.top. Then we're going to do a class name. And the div inside this doesn't need a class name. It's just going to have some CSS of flex. Oops. Which actually be quotes, that's why. Flex W full gap dash 80 pixels. And then within that, we'll have another one with styles dot top header text. Okay. And again, this is where we can start designing that transaction history like it is on regular Amazon. We're going to do order placed and just insert a nice line break here. And one thing that I forgot to mention, like we're using moment here to format the dates in a really nice way. And we actually have the date built into the assets itself. We just have to format it. So I'm going to do moment asset dot purchase date. And then you can do dot format. And this is how I want it. We can do quotes here, quotes here, and we can do M for the month, DO, and this for the year. Nice. Okay, cool. I'm really liking that. So let's put this over here. And in the next line, it's going to be a sibling of that div. It's going to be class name, styles.top header text. All right, it's going to be the same one as earlier. All right, except this time the title for this will be total and BR. You guys should start to notice a pattern of how I'm forming this. And this one is just going to have the asset price, like how much did I buy that asset for? I'd love to show that in the history as well. So we'll do AC because we're using Amazon coins, and we're going to do something similar again. Div class name styles dot top header text again. Here we'll have ship to, right? Because on Amazon we can see who it was sent to, and we should put the user here, which is why we imported it with our context, so we can put username. Oh yeah, if I save, we'll see an error because there is no styles yet. Okay, so then it'll be closing div. And now the main thing is going to be the content of it. So the container will actually also be called content. So styles.content, okay? And within there, we'll have another div for the date. So styles.date, and we can say bought on. We also want to see when it was bought. We can format it with moment and asset.purchase date. And let's give it a different kind of format, still with the 4 M's, but just no year. That's the only difference between the last one. Okay, so this would be closing div. Then we should show the item that we got, which would be really cool. And to show the item that we got, let's make a container for it, and I'll do styles.item. Here we'll make use of that image I imported. Let's make it self-close. Awesome. And then we can do a class name, give it a styling of object-cover. The src is actually stored on here as well already, so we can just say asset.src. The alt will just be the item, and the height, we can give it the same as the card height, the same as the width, which will also be 100. Okay, cool. So after the image, I want to have the name of the item to describe it. So we'll have another div here. That's just going to have the name of name container. So styles.name container.
Okay, then we'll do class name styles.item name. Here we'll have asset.name. All right, in the next line, we have a couple more divs to make, which is this one's going to be another div. And this one doesn't have a name, but it has some CSS already in it. So it's going to be flex row, items, center, justify, dash center, and a gap dash 4. You guys got that? Cool. Okay. And what I want here is a buy again feature, which Amazon has. So we'll have styles.buy again button, and then we'll just have buy it again. All right. Okay. And then we'll have a link that has href. We'll do a template literal here to put asset.etherscan links. So that's what we're linking here. For the a tag, then we'll do a target equal to, oops, not curly brackets there, target underscore blank. Then we'll have the rel equals no opener. Oh, no opener. And inside will just be another div with the class name styles.etherscan button, not link, button, so that we can see the transaction history of it. Okay, cool. So that's a tag link. Div. Awesome. And now let's get rid of this error by actually putting our styles object. Okay, it's one of the last few styles we're going to have. Okay, it's going to be one of the last few styles we're going to have. So I can say const styles equals container w minus bracket 40% flex column. We'll give it a nice border with this D6D 7D9, right? Let me do Alt-C before it gets too long. Then we can do a border -2, rounded -LG, and a shadow large. And thank you guys. I see you guys telling me that it's container. I hear you. Don't worry. Container. And we'll do top. So for top, we'll do a flex with full. Let's give it a height of 80 pixels. And for the background, it can be this color right here, F1F. And the P can be 20 pixels. All right. So for PR, guys, let's also make this 80 pixels and just add a gap, and that's going to be it for top. All right, we still have top header text to do. Top header text, all it's going to have is a text large, text left, flex property, and items dash center. So that's it for top header text. After top header text, let's do a content. All right, then in content, let's have a flex dash column, h dash bracket 400 pixels. Then we'll have a gap of dash 20 pixels, and we'll have a p of, let's see, bracket content 20 pixels. Yeah, cool. And the last thing we'll add for this one is going to be flex one. All right, so that's content. Then we have date. For date will be just text, and let's make it, oh, we can also make the font, the bold here. Then we can do item, and that one can have a flex property of flex row. Give it a gap of 20 pixels, and make sure the width is full, and that will be your item div. Next, I want to look at name container, which will just be flex column. Then we can justify, and don't forget to put the backticks around it. Okay, cool. So let me finish this word off. Justify end for name container. All right. Then we have the item name, which will be text mg font bold. Make it rounded full. Then we can do a p-10 pixels here. 10 pixels. Okay. Next, we have a header of 40 pixels. And let's see. For width, I think we should do 20 pixels and cursor dash pointer, so I can hover over it and see the pointer. Okay, so for text, I have this color, which is just going to be 3A2802, okay, for the item name. And what I want to add next is a text dash center, MB dash bracket, 5 pixels, and empty dash 10 pixels. All right, then we have the buy again button, and let's style that as well. So for the buy again button, so that's buy again button. Oops, I mixed up the item name with the buy again button. So to see text font bold rounded full P10 H. Oh, okay, I see. So what I want to do is cut this part out, and we can just do a flex ML dash 10 pixels. Yeah, it looks really funny. So there we go. That's it for item name then. Button again is going to have that really long one, but we're missing some stuff at the beginning, which should just be a background color. So if that's BG bracket hashtag FD713, and then close it off with this bracket here. So that's the background. We also need a font bold for that. Yeah. So this one is text MG, font bold, flex ML, bracket 10 pixels, and this is the buy again button here. So take a moment to get that done. Then we can do the Etherscan button. This one I know is just going to be font dash bold, rounded dash H dash 40 pixels, W dash bracket 150 pixels, and we have cursor dash pointer. Text can be this color of bracket hashtag 3A2802. Okay, I think we should do a text center here and border dash 2. And then we got border dash bracket hashtag FD713 and 2 more things, well, 3 more things. We need flex, justify, center, and we can do an items dash center. Whew, that was a lot of styling, but there we go. That should be the transactions components front end. If I hit save, hope we don't get any more errors. Ooh, okay, awesome. So it looks pretty crazy, but if I zoom out, let's go. Look how clean that is, guys. So this looks exactly like the text from Amazon, and we can fix it up by adding something right here. I know how to make this even better. What if we did a text header end text? And let's give it a different styling then. So if I do top header end text, let's see if I can fix it up by doing a text large flex items dash center flex row p dash 30 pixels and put the comma. Whoops. See if that helps. So I think I figured out the issue, guys. What we're going to need to do is head over back here for text end. This should just be text top header text. I realize I'm not really using it, and that the real issue is that there's a little typo here. So if I do ADPX, hit save, and let's freaking go. That's the purchase history that I'm trying to see. So that's going to be it for the component. I think we can top it off by just running through, and let's buy one more asset and get coins to just wrap this whole thing up. So let's buy some coins. We can get about 5. I'll hit buy. Okay, Metamask is loading. It's gonna take a couple seconds. Okay, there it is. We need our signatures so we can mint the tokens that we want. I'll hit confirm. Here's our nice hash loading screen. And again, you can always change this if you want with your React spinners. Now we just have to wait for the transaction confirmation. There it is. You can see that it's confirmed. There's our transaction receipt. If I click it, it goes to Etherscan. Like, how cool is that? And then if I X this out, our coins is updated, and you can look in your Moralis DB to check if it actually went through. So now we should have 3 items. What that tells me is if I go to my transaction history page, I should see 3 items. So I'm gonna give a quick refresh to my Moralis DB, see if it updated. This usually takes a couple minutes, like I mentioned before. Let's see, 5 tokens. Oh, waiting. Okay, go to user. And if I double check this, let's see if it's loaded in. We got skull, we got our robo cat, and that's it so far. Ah, there it is, updated. What's that? Oh, that's right, we just got coins. We need to actually buy something. So now I'm gonna ask you guys, what do you wanna buy? I'm thinking we can do this Adidas Metaverse one, right? And as you can see, our recent transactions working still too, which is a good sign. So now I'm actually gonna purchase a digital asset that I created. Let this load. Let's hit confirm on there. And now we just wait for the blockchain to verify and let us know that we have the assets done. Okay, so after I hit confirm, we should be seeing an alert pretty soon. Okay, there's Google Chrome letting us know we got it. Hey, you successfully purchased this asset. That's what we were waiting for. And now we should see that was the recent transaction. Cool. Now we can check our Moralis DB. And if I refresh this, let's find out if it got added to my owned assets. RoboCat and Adidas Metaverse. Awesome. So now I own 3 of those things. And now let's head over to transaction history. And it's going to take a second to load here as well. Ooh. And we also lost the correct amount of Amazon coins. And there it is. Nice. So we can actually purchase histories. This is awesome. And that has been the build, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. All we need to do now is deploy this to Netlify and make this live. So now that we have our site, let's update our CLI by doing netlify deploy. And if you guys are sure it's all good, we can do a netlify deploy -prod. Okay, and once that's done, we just wait for it to load. So I'm coming over to Netlify, and if you remember what we did when we set it up earlier, we set it up so that if you do the Netlify CLI tool, you can just do a git push and it will automatically update your site. The only difference that I did is I renamed it to Amazon Clone Blockchain, and now I just have to wait for this to finish, and we should be good to go. All right, so as we're building, the cool thing about this is in the deploy logs, you can actually catch a bunch of errors using the CLI tool. So if you look, I have an error because of the use context in my history page. So what that tells me, I just have to go to history and make sure that it's inside our function. So let's fix our history. It wants us to make this capital. So I'll say const history. And then here we'll say const history as well. And anytime you're importing that, it should be that as well. And I think we can do the same for the name. So I'll say history, okay? So once you make those changes, we can upload again. So I'm just gonna update the GitHub, add .git status, just to make sure, and then we can just commit it. All right, fixed history page. All right, so then when we push, Netlify will take it over and start to attempt to redeploy. Okay, we got building. All right, so no errors so far. Now it's building the function, so that's a good sign. We're almost done with the deployment. So build script success. Doesn't look like there's any issues, and we can make use of Netlify's deploy preview. So I'm gonna click preview, and don't worry about this if it looks funny. If I click connect wallet, then click MetaMask and try to log in, there we go. Moralis authentication, signature request. Let's go ahead and hit sign, and if it works, that's a good sign. Hey, when I log in, there's my assets.
there's my account, and the styling is fixed. And with that said, our site is now live. Isn't that insane? So all you gotta do is take this very link and you can send it to your friends and show them and have them log in. And they can now connect their accounts and also buy any of the assets that you guys make. So how cool is that? I'm so excited for this build. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
What's up, guys? Lance absolutely crushed that build. If you enjoyed it, make sure you smash that like button. He's exhausted. I can see him over here, and he's a broken man. He's a shell of a man that he once used to be. So if not for me, for him, break that like button. Turn it white, turn it blue, do whatever you need to do. With that said, the last and most important thing is go and sign up with BuildSpace, because this build, Amazon, that you just did, if you connect your wallet there, you're gonna be able to verify that you've done this, and they're going to give you an NFT that goes along with it. BuildSpace is also an incredible community of Web3 builders for building the future, and you don't want to miss out. And they're also amazing job opportunity, and all of it is completely free. So make sure you go ahead, sign up for it. Whew, that was a lot of fun. That was long, but you finished it, and you finished it strong. So much love to you. This is Kazi. That was Lance. I love your beautiful face. We love your beautiful face. And as always, we'll see you in the next video.